映像が出ているでしょうか。あ、出たかな？映像音声出ていますでしょうか？大丈夫かな？ちょっと手元のスマホで確認してみます。お、出てそうですね。はい。出てそうですね。はい。映像音声、例によって問題、等ございましたら、いつでもどなたでも、お気軽に、チャット欄の方に、チャット欄の方でお知らせいただけると嬉しいです。海藤優さん、Hey guys! ということでありがとうございます。早朝から、お越しいただいて、本当にありがとうございます。はい。それでは定刻になりましたので、配信の方開始していきたいと思います。どうも皆さんおはようございます。ユーズディアブロラボのユーでございます。このチャンネルはですね、ディアブロシリーズをはじめとする様々なハクスラタイトルについて深々と掘り下げていくチャンネルでございます。POE であるとか、ラストエポックであるとか、まあそういった他の、ハクスラやアクション RPG ジャンルについても言及していきたいと思っていますので、興味関心のある方はぜひチャンネル登録、ご検討いただけると嬉しいです。もちろん、ライブ、にお越しくださっている方々も、そうですね、アーカイブで、ご覧になっている方々も、検討いただけると嬉しいです。うっちゃりさんおはようございます。はい。今日もありがとうございます。今日はですね、30分前から、予習タイムということで、スタートしているんですけれども、ちょっとですね、時間が足りるかどうか、怪しいので、シャキシャキと、やっていきたいと思います。はい。というわけで今日はですね、ディアブロ4の憎悪の器ですね、ベッスル・オブ・ヘイトリッドのリリース直前公式生配信ですね。こちらの方の生通訳同時配信を行っていきたいと思っています。はい。で、今日も結構盛りだくさんのようでして、昨日ですね、アダム・フレッチャー、コミュニティマネージャーのアダム・フレッチャーが、目次を出したと、いうくらい、はい、結構盛りだくさんみたいです。ざっくりですが、まずイントロですね。イントロの後に、ポストパッチ 2.0PTR、まあ、パッチ 2.0 の PTR が、先日ありましたけれども、それの方の、PTR のテストのフィードバックやら、データマイニング、データ分析、分析などを通して、加えた変更ですね。変更点についての、コメントがあるということのようです。他にも、プログレッション、まあ、育成ですね。育成とか、アイテマイゼーション、アイテム設計の方、の変更についてもなんか、話があるみたいです。他にもシステムアップデートとか、クラスバランス変更とか、あるいは、ルーンワードの変更なんかについても、話があるということのようですね。で、さらにシーズン6のディテールってあるのは、これおそらくシーズン6の、シーズン要素の方ですね。シーズン要素の方は、これですかね。つい先ほど、このイメージがアップロードされたんですけれども、シーズンオブヘイトリッドライジング というのが、シーズン6のシーズンテーマになるようです。はい。訳すと何でしょうね。立ち上がる像といったようなところでしょうか。はい。といったような感じですね。で、VoH、Vessel of Hatred、像の器ですね。像の器のオーバービュー、概要といったようなところでしょうか。スピリットボーンについて、それとあと、クラスト地下道について、それとあと、ダークセリレオ。ダークセリレオは、なんだっけ。暗黒の城塞か。はい。暗黒の城塞の、詳細。概要か。概要。それとあと、傭兵についての概要ですね。で、一番最後に Q&A が来ると、いったような、内容になるようです。で、この、目次ですね。アダム・フレッチャーが、つけてくれた目次なんですけれども、せっかくなので、皆さんご覧になっている配信画面の左の方にですね、この概要、載せておきました。そうですね、これを、見ながら、どんな風に、今どのあたりを進行しているのかというのを確認していただければなというふうに思います。はい。で、今日ですね、朝方、今日じゃない、もう昨日か。昨日の朝方5時ぐらいからですかね、アンケートを、取りました。あなたは Diablo IV 像の器をもう購入しましたかというような内容の、アンケートです。で、これアンケートを取った目的なんですけれども、すでに購入した人が多ければ、パッチ1. パッチバージョン1ですね。バージョン1をプレイ済みプレイ済みだということを前提にした動画を、バージョン2の、概要ですね。短い概要を、動画化して、配信しようかななんてちょっと思ってたりもしてました。で、逆に、未定ですね。様子見中という方が多い場合には、Vessel of Hatred、像の器、購入するに値するかどうかという動画を、一本作るかどうかっていうようなことを、どちらにするかっていうのを、一週間しかもうないので、検討しようと思って、それで、実施したアンケートです。で、すでに購入したよっていう方と、まだだけれども、一応購入するつもりだよという方、これ合わせて3人に2人ですね、の方がすでに、あるいはこれから購入するつもりだと、いうことで、意外に多かったようです。なので、一応、すでに、Diablo IV をお持ちの方向けの動画をもしかしたら一本、間に合えば作りたいなというふうに思っています。Diablo IV 余裕があれば、Diablo IV はの Vessel of Hatred ですね。像の器は顔に値するかどうかっていう動画も、余裕があれば手出したいなとは思っています。66票、これでも私の予想よりかはだいぶ多いんですけれども、66票もいただいたんですが、逆に言うと所詮66票とも言えるわけで、はい。データ数としては、サンプル数としては若干少ないかなと、はい、いうのは、ちょっとご愛嬌ということですね。おそらく見て様子見中の方、実際にここで出ているアンケートの結果より結構いるんじゃないかなと個人的には思っています。はい。ということですね。このアンケートについては、こんな感じです。アンケートに投票してくださった方々、どうもありがとうございました。はい。ご協力、いつもながらありがとうございます。はい。で、以下ですね、この1週間で発表があったハクスラ関係のニュースですね。 についてざっくり追っていきたいと思います。まず PD2 ですね。プロジェクト Diablo II という、Diablo II のモッドですね。モッドというのは改造パッチのことなんですけれども、まあ改造パッチといっても割と正規の違法なものではなくって、有志が作っているもの、非公式のものではあるんですけれども、公式からちゃんと公認されてますよというような感じの改造パッチですね。はい、になります。で、このプロジェクト Diablo II、Diablo II の、リザレクテッドではなくって、本家の方ですね。本家の古い方の Diablo II の、改造パッチになります。といっても、画面割と、もうブラッシュアップされて綺麗になってたりとかするので、20年前の画面そのものというわけではありません。こちらの、シーズン10の方がですね、シーズン10の方が、10月の25日から開始ということに、なりました。トピさんおはようございます。ありがとうございます。いつもお世話になっております。今日も、ライブ感楽しんでいってください。それとですね、ドゥブリンスキーですね。配信者のドゥブリンスキーが約1年半以上ぶりに、Diablo 2の、動画を出しました。まあ、Diablo 2 D2R のモッドの紹介ですね。とあるモッドの紹介動画になるんですけれども、このドゥブリンスキーという人物は、カナダの、配信者で、名前が今、ポッと出てこない。ヒューマンボットプロジェクトですね。はい。ヒューマンボットプロジェクトという、とにかくもう何千周もするような、周回プレイを、動画化して、まとめて、で、それでどれだけの、いいアイテムが出るかっていうような、そういう動画を作って有名になった配信者ですね。はい、ヒューマンボットプロジェクト。例えば、クラスと仮想、LK ランですね。クラスと仮想を1万周回ってみたとか、そういう感じの動画を作って有名になった、配信者です。まあ、割と若い、でも、1年半ぶりに見たら結構白髪が増えてたりとかしましたけれども、割と若い配信者ですね。はい、になります。彼が1年半ぶりに、復帰したということで、まあ、ちょっと一部彼のことを知っている、人の間では、盛り上がってます。はい、ということですね。それと、10月8日に、ゾウの器が発売になるんですけれども、同じ日にですね、ジェイソン・シュライヤーという、割とゲーム業界のジャーナリストとしては、一二を争うくらい有名な、ゲームジャーナリストなんですけれども、このジェイソン・シュライヤーが書いた Play Nice ですね。The Rise, Fall and Future of Blizzard Entertainment、という、本ですね。ブリザードに関する、本が、10月8日に、発売されます。で、日本語版が出るかどうかっていうのに関して今のところ情報は出てないんですけれども、Kindle 版ですねが、2000円を切っているということで、ちょっと買ってみようかななんて、思っています。はい。そうですね。はい。興味のある方はぜひ、日本語版がもし出るようなことがあれば、また、はい、ツイッターの方で、お知らせ、情報共有したいなというふうに思っております。それとあとツイッターですけれども、私の場合、更新頻度は圧倒的にツイッターの方が YouTube よりも多いので、ツイッターのアカウント名をですね、 画面左上の方に、載せています。興味のある方はぜひですね、フォローしていただけると、特に有料とかっていうわけではないので、無料で、情報共有してますので、ちゃんと。はい。興味のある方はフォローしていただければなというふうに思っています。はい。ちなみにハードカバー、結構分厚い本みたいなんですけれども、ハードカバーの方は5000円弱、するそうです。はい。これがジェイソン・シュライヤーの、新しい新刊本ですね。発売日は、10月の8日、ベッスル・オブ・ヘイトリッド、憎悪の器と同じタイミングになります。はい。で、最後ですね、モーモ牧場について、追加の情報が公開されています。ディアブロ3でねじれ虹の国ですね、ウィムジー・スライヤー、への入り口を開くのに必要だった、ワートのベル、物言う宝石、それとあと牛追いの杖ですね。この3点の慣れの果てにあたる、錆びた古い鐘、それとあと超々しい宝石、それとあと曲がった杖。この3点を集めると珍しい鍵が手に入ると。で、この珍しい鍵がどこぞの扉を開ける、鍵になっているようなんですけれども、詳細がまだ分かっていないというのが一つと、で、あとこの3点ですね。この3点が、3点もしくは3点の中の一つですかね。が入手できる場所がナハントゥになっている、ナハントゥエリアの中になっているようなので、今現時点では入手不可だと。はい。来週の、10月8日以降ですね、8時以降に、入手できるようになりますよ、ということのようです。はい。なので、興味のある人は、追ってみていただければなというふうに思います。はい。で、そうですね。ベッスル・オブ・ヘイトリッド、憎悪の器、すでに購入済みの方は、バトルネットですね。パソコンの PC のバトルネットで、プレイしている方に関しては、10月1日ですね。もう過ぎてますけれども、の8時から、事前ダウンロードが可能になっていました。これ結構ダウンロードに時間かかって、こんなに時間かかったの、ディアブロ2の体験版以来だなっていうくらい時間がかかりました。丸々、半日って言っても12時間とかですね、かかりましたね。はい。あゆたやさんですかね。はい。おはようございます。はい。訪問ありがとうございます。コメントもありがとうございます。ぜひですね、気軽にコメントしていっていただければありがたいと思います。今日の配信、ライブ感、ぜひですね、楽しんでいっていただければなというふうに思います。もう、配信開始から、早17分ですか経ってますね。時間がどんどんなくなってきちゃうので、なくなってきてるので、スピードアップしたいと思います。で、家庭用ゲーム機、コンソールですね、Xbox とかプレイステ、については、10月の6日から、はい、前々日ですかね。から、事前ダウンロードができるようになるみたいですね。はい。で、Steam ユーザーに関しては10月8日の8時ってこれ、憎悪の器のプレイ開始時間ですね。この時間にならないと、ダウンロード開始できないみたいです。はい。なので、注意してください。はい。ということでした。ではですね、今日の、目次の中から、このポストパッチ 2.0 PTR チェンジスですね。パッチ 2.0 の先日行われたパッチ 2.0 PTR を受けてどういう変更が行われるかということについて、ざっくりと、私がプレイした PTR の感想も込みで、お伝えしたいなというふうに思っています。もう10分ちょっとしかないですね。はい、急ぎます。はい、まず、大前提として、 PTR は極縁軍団、あるいは暗黒の城塞ですね。それとクラスト地下都市といったような、いくつかのエンドゲームコンテンツ、あるいは傭兵システムとかシーズン要素とか、こういったような、ものが外された状態で行われていたので、その点ちょっと、留意してください。それとあとパーティー検索機能など、実際に PTR で試すことはできたんだけれども、いくつかの新機能については、ユーザーインターフェースが、日本語訳が間に合わなかったようで、エラーメッセージ、英語でのエラーメッセージが表示された状態になってたんですね。で、これであんまり、うまくテストできなかったっていうものがいくつかありました。英語版に、表示を英語に切り替えると、一応使えるんですけれども、切り替えたり戻したりというのがなかなか、めんどくさかったので、それは必要最小限のものだけに留めました。はい。で、ここで思ったのが、訳出がまだ済んでいないメニューに関しては、英語版の原文を、日本語訳の方にまんまベタッと表示してくれると、嬉しいかなというふうに思いました。そうなってないんですね。はい。遺憾ながらそうなってないので、ちょっと不便だったなということで、いちいちクライアントの表示言語を英語に切り替えたり、日本語に戻したりとか、言ったようなことを、せずに済むように、英語版の原文で表示してくれると嬉しかったです。それと二つ目、数値圧縮ですね。ヒットポイントっていうか、ライフとか、あるいは、ダメージとか、その数値の桁数をギュッと圧縮するというのが今回の目玉の一つだったんですけれども、要はドラゴンボールのようなパワークリープ状態ですね。戦闘力10万とかフリーザー様かみたいな、そんな状態だったわけですけれども、そこをギュッと圧縮するのが、今回、行われた大きな変更の一つでした。はい。私自身もかなり期待してたんですね。なんで期待してたかっていうと、これも、ちょっと色変えて、強調してますけれども、桁数が圧縮されることで画面情報の可読性が上がる。画面情報が、少なくなって、はい、見やすくなる、いうのがあるので、ちょっと期待してたんですけれども、序盤から中盤にかけて育成段階ですね。育成段階では結構効果的だったんですけれども、難易度トーメントを過ぎたあたりから急速にパワークリープがひどくなりまして、ダメージやライフの桁数が伸びていって、最終的には現行パッチの桁数を上回ってしまうと。はい。ドイツの配信者のロブが、ダメージに、凄まじい桁数のダメージを与え続けてた結果、いきなり、ある瞬間から無限大というですね、インフィニティという、この、8を横に寝かしたようなマークですね。これが、途中から出てくるくらい、パワークリープが、ひどかったという、そういう動画をロブが公開しています。はい。ここら辺をちょっとなんとか修正してもらえないかなというふうに個人的には思っています。大体希望としては、これはあくまで私の個人的な希望であって、一般論かどうかはちょっとわかりません。はい。最大でも5桁から6桁くらいに抑えてくれるのが理想かなというふうに私自身は思ってます。はい。ここら辺は人によって意見変わるところかなというふうに思っています。ごめんなさい。画面が、こっちかな。はい。すいません。見切れてたり、おかしかったりしたら遠慮なく言ってください。はい。で、3番目、育成ですね。あと7分。はい。 育成、経験値報酬を見直したことで、拠点攻略が再び魅力的なコンテンツとして復活したというのはいうところが大変良かったなと。はい。拠点攻略を一箇所するごとに、まあ、大体レベルが1つから2つくらい、上がるんですね。まあ、あれ良かったなっていうふうに、プレイしてて思いました。はい。あと、ナハントゥで追加される分、育成段階の時にですね、拡張版、の DLC をプレイしている時に、ナハントゥでの名声を追加で取得しなくちゃいけないってことはないですけれども、そうですね。キャラを強化するために名声を、ナハントゥ分、はい、追加で取得しなくちゃいけないというのは、覚えておいてください。特にですね、今回、リリース像に変わって、アカラットのなんだろう。ちょっと、なんて書いてあったか覚えてないんですけれども、アカラットの祭壇か彫像か、なんかそんなような感じのものに、リリース像に変わって、触れるものが変わりますので、そのあたりちょっと注意しておいてください。はい。で、パラゴンボードですね。パラゴンボードについては初期ボード4枚の制限が、初期ボードプラス4枚で計5枚ですね。という制限が加わります。で、パラゴンポイントの方も、200から300に、増えるんですけれども、ちょっと先ほどのパワークリープと絡めて、今現状で300だと、もしかすると多すぎというか強すぎなんじゃないかなという感じがちょっとしています。グリフも最大ですね。最大のレベル100まで育てると、ちょっと強すぎるかなという。まあ、ただグリフに関しては、最大まで育てられる人はかなり限られてくるかなというふうに思っています。奈落のティア100ですね。までいっぱいいっぱい、できる人でないとグリフを最大までは育てられません。まあでもレベル46だったかな。グリフがレジェンダリーに変わる境目ですね。の46まで、育てられれば、それだけでもだいぶアドバンテージあるかなというふうに思っています。カイトユウさん、シーズン5でもソサは、超言ってましたよ。あのクラスダメだと思う。ソーサレスですか。まあ、バーバーも毎回そうですし、で、今回はローグもそうでしたし、PTR ですね。もうちょっと、なんとかしないとダメですよね。はい。ありがとうございます。あと4分。はい。で、ソレイアイテムの方に移りたいと思います。ソレイアイテムのドロップ率がかなり渋めなんですね。体感で 3% か 5%、あるいはそれより低いくらいかもしれません。はい。で、極限など PTR で開放されてなかったエンドゲームコンテンツでのドロップ率がわからないので、例えば、極限の、60箱ですか。60箱だと確定で1つ、GA 付きのアイテムが落ちることになってますけれども、まあそういうのを活用すれば、ある程度、楽に集められるのかどうなのかっていうのがちょっとわからないんですけれども、もしかしたらドロップ率の緩和があるかもしれません。仮にその、極限で確定で GA 一つですね、それアイテムが一つ落ちるとしても、極限に人が集中して、他のコンテンツに人が行かなくなるっていうのはあんまり望ましくないと思うので、緩和がもしかしたらあるかもしれませんね。はい。で、ルーンワード、あと2分しかない。ルーンワード、ディアブロ2のルーンワードとは完全に別物です。ディアブロ2ではルーン自体に特殊効果がついて、さらにそれを特定のルーンを決まった順番に装填することで強力な追加効果が付与されます。本当はサンプル用意してたんですけれども、時間がないので、飛ばします。はい。まあ、ディアブロ4のルーンワードについては、ルーン2つで1つの効果しかつかないということ、からも、全く別物だというふうに思ってください。ただしですね、発動条件と、はい、儀式のルーンと呼ばれるものが発動条件を設定するもの。 棍棒のルーンというのが発動効果を、表すものですね。はい。こういう、この発動条件と発動効果、この儀式と棍棒のルーンの組み合わせで、バリエーション出そうというのは、なかなかちょっと面白いかなというふうに思っています。はい。その他、スキルの、ダメージですね。ダメージとかがかなり低めなので、大幅なバフか、それともシナジー源を増やすか、何かしないと、実際にはあまり使えない、ほとんどのものはあまり使えないかなというような感じですね。それとあと、装填先、防具と武器とありますけれども、ほぼ防具一択かなというふうに思っています。はい。武器には、ダメージを上げるための、宝石を埋めたりとか、することが多いので、あんまり武器に入れたりはしないのかなと。まあ、入れられるとしたら両手武器しかないんですけれどもね。はい。というわけで、ちょっと駆け足になってしまいましたが、ちょっと待ってくださいね。これでどうだろう。音声出てますか？はい。あと残り40秒で本編が始まるみたいですね。はい。
Eru is this elder, this magical being, a Spiritborn, and he's really connected to Nahantu. This is his home, this is his ancestral lineage, and he's guiding the player on this journey to help Neyrelle.
We actually find out that there have been
本編の映像、映像じゃない、音声出てますか？
In Vessel of Hatred, this is a story about isolation. We start off with the concept that Neyrelle is trying to do this alone, but at some point you realize that things are escalating. And so we morph from this idea of isolation into the idea of being stronger together.
For someone that has been through the journey that our Wanderer has, that Neyrelle has been through, you feel there's hope.
相田さん、ワクワクと。そうですね、私もちょっとワクワクしてます。はい。それでは本編ですかね。はい。ありがとうございます。気温マスということですね。はい。右側がアダム・フレッチャーですね。で、左側が、ブレント・ギブソン。ゾウの器の開発責任者ですね。
I know before we have our big show, you wanted to talk a little bit about Vessel of Hatred and what's to come.
Yeah, this is a really big week. The fact that we're finally on the doorstep of shipping Vessel of Hatred is a bit surreal. We've been working on it for a very long time. You know, over the course of the last 5 seasons, so much has changed.
過去5シーズンでいろいろなものが変わりましたけれども、次のチャプターですね、メフィストについて、取り上げていくわけですが、
That's awesome.
Along the way, you're also going to find brand new ways to play with the Kurast Undercity. We've talked about this time attack engine.
クラスト地下都市とか、新しい、プレイの仕方なんかも紹介しますし、
And we also have brand new ways of gaining power. Whether you're hiring mercenaries and leveling them up,
傭兵など新しい、パワーアップの仕方ですね。そういったようなものも紹介していきたいと思っています。
At the end of all this, we have the star of our show, our class that wants to go fast, the Spiritborn, which, you know, everybody.
はい。で、新クラススピリットボーンですね。
And we have been polishing it and getting it ready to make sure that it's the most fun it can be at launch.
Yeah, and it's great because like we're actually going to be going through all these aspects today in the live stream with our kind of our subject matter experts across each of them. So I know, as we mentioned, next week the Vessel of Hatred will actually be shipping and be released to everyone. Right now the plan is for it to be out on October 8th.
象の器をリリースしますけれども、
We actually did release a map earlier this week in our What You Need to Know blog that kind of pretty much contains exactly when each of the release dates are to be,
ブログで何を
right
拡張 DLC をプレイする上で何を知っておけばいいか、何を知っておかなければならないかっていうのについて、ブログでなんか提示があるそうです。それだと Twitch ドロップスですね。Twitch の配信を、Twitch で、象の器の配信をしている人の、配信を一定時間見ると、こういったようなコスメティックですね、を、入手することができるようになりますよということですね。
We also have a support a streamer program this time around, which is really cool because support a streamer actually really helps out some of the smaller streamers that are actually really
おっさんさんこんばんは。始まりました。ちょうど始まったところです。楽しんでいってください。
Any streamer that is streaming across Diablo IV and has this enabled, you'll end up receiving the mount that we actually just showed right there. And then if you do an additional 2, you actually get the mount armor as well. So it's a really cool way of helping out some of the smaller and mid-sized streamers out there that really benefit from some of these programs, and it's great to see all these new faces as they actually jump into Vessel of Hatred. The next thing we do also want to talk about is a cool promotion that we're actually doing with Trolley here in the US. Trolley actually makes some candy, so they're like sour bright crawlers and things like that. There's actually some really cool weapon skins available if you actually purchase Trolley specific products here in the US. We actually have them here on set.
アメリカのお菓子ですね。アメリカのお菓子のキャンペーンで、このトローリーというのを買うと、コスメティックが手に入るみたいな、そんなキャンペーンがあるみたいです。で、これは米国限定みたいですね。日本、我々には、直接は関係ないかと思います。
Multitudes of titles, including like World of Warcraft, for instance, because this was actually going on with the War Within here at Blizzard. So, yeah, like if you're in the US, look for Trolley products. Thankfully, we have a whole bunch of bags here, so expect me to actually be eating these throughout the stream.
We've had like 7 bags in the last 2 days.
Yeah, as we've been like prepping for the stream, like this has been my whole entire diet. Actually, no, I've been eating normal food, but at the same time, this is like my kryptonite right here. So expect me to be eating these throughout the stream. It's my favorite stream because we have snacks now. So I'm like, this is perfect. This is perfect. But one thing, again, we wanted to mention, which is the release date. And I think we have a release date map here.
はい、リリースデートの、リリース日の、マップですね。日本の場合はソウル時間、の、10月8日の午前8時ですね。はい。これが、日本時間での、リリース時間になります。
We wanted to make sure that we could get as many people in on October 8th, and of course a little earlier on October 7th, but everyone's coming out at the exact same time. So looking forward to everyone jumping in. We do have an action-packed show today, a lot of stuff to cover. We are going to be hitting up on the patch 2.0 PTR changes first. First up in the agenda, because we have so many things to share, I will note this is our 20th live stream for Diablo IV that we've ever done, which is really cool.
今回が Diablo IV の、配信20回目、記念すべき20回目にあたりますということですね。
This is kind of a nice momentous occasion, but because of how much content we have and how many guests we have, we are going to say that we will have some small little breaks while we actually mic new people up, bring them into the studio, and then swap them out for other things. But we are going to be talking first about
たくさんの人が入れ替わり立ち替わり入ってくるので、 スモールブレイク、小さな、ブレイク、幕間を入れるということなんですけれども、どれくらいのブレイクなのか、ってか、ブレイクがどれくらいの、どんな感じのものを意味しているのかは、ちょっと、わからないですね。はい。絵的にトウモロコシのお菓子ということですが、おっさんさん、後で調べてみます。はい。これがブレイクですね。はい。ブレイクを入れて、ここで、ブレント・ギブソンか、誰かが、変わって、別の人が入ってくるということですね。はい。もしくは、二元中継とかでもするのかな？アーバインと、アルバニーですね。ニューヨーク州のアルバニーで二元中継とかでもするのかな？まあこれがアダム・フレッチャーがさっき言ってたスモールブレイクなんでしょうね。はい。ゲストを、入れ替えるためのちっちゃな幕間。はい。次のトピックは PTR から学んだこと。だそうです。はい。
Awesome. I appreciate everyone bearing with us as we get people mic'd up. We're going to be doing this a couple times throughout this stream, but we're here to talk about the PTR learnings from Patch 2.0 PTR, which we had earlier this month. Super beneficial. PTRs have been great for us since we've started actually hosting them for Diablo IV.
シーズン6 PTR でも、ライスピビルドを弱くなるところか火力上がってたんで、シーズン6開始時はちょっと強めのお仕置きあるのかなと想像してます。なるほど。
Actually, before we do that, sorry. I just realized no one knows who we are. I mean, they know who I am. There we go. There. I was just like, wait a minute. Of course, we have some familiar faces.
チャールズ・ダンなんかは何度か出てますね。で、コーリン・ファイナーも、前に出てますね。
Hey y'all, I'm Anthony. I'm an associate class designer.
Awesome. Great. There we go. Now we got everyone settled. Aislinn, do you want to talk about some of the progression changes?
Yes, absolutely. So, Adam, like you said,
PTR から学んだこと。
It's given us so much data and the feedback you guys give.
はい、たくさんのデータとフィードバックを、皆さんからいただくことができました。
And so, yeah, let's talk about it.
さあ、早速入っていきましょう。
So first of all, monster intensity. Something we saw in the early game was people weren't noticing the changes in monster intensity because people were skipping through difficulties fairly quickly. And so we decided to move monster intensity from scaling over normal, hard, expert, and penitent to scaling over torment 1 through 4 because you're going to be progressing through torments a little bit slower, so you're going to be able to feel the intensity changes, I think, a little more potently.
Yeah, there's a bit more jumps, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, the intensity system was essentially monsters just become a little bit more reliable in their damage.
Right.
They start to predict your movement a little bit more on the projectiles. Yes. It's not a massive change, but it should sort of make the monsters feel a little bit more aggressive and dangerous.
Yeah, they just become a little more lethal, I think, ultimately, beyond, numerical changes. Second up I want to talk about is one that I'm really, really happy and excited about, actually, is that elites, unique elites, and super elites are 3 different types of elites you can actually fight if you know that or not.
エリート、ユニークエリート、それとあとスーパーエリートという3種類のエリートがあるんだけれども、
super elite might deal actually 2 times the amount of damage of a normal elite. And what that was causing was when an elite spawned an affix, like lightning enchanted or poison or whatever, the super elites would do 2 times more damage with those affixes. But you didn't really have any way to tell, right? There's no way to tell if an affix was spawned by an elite or a super elite. And so, kind of seemingly randomly, an affix might deal 2 times more damage to
だからつく特性ですね。つく特性によってはかなり痛い攻撃になってしまう。
Like you know how much it's going to hit you for. Way more consistent, way more predictable, which is really helpful for not getting randomly one shot.
Our favorites, those.
Yeah. And then finally, on difficulty, we have some changes to standard difficulty tiers. We know some of you guys are looking for a challenge, so let's take a look at what a challenge looks like. All right, so we have a level 1 character
もっ
here
と
in
高難易
Kyoto
度
Shack
を
going to the
育成段階で求めてる人がいると。
So what are they going to change it to? Well, before they could access normal, hard, and expert, but
で、
now they can access
ペネテン
penitence at
ト
level 1.
はい、レベル1からペネテントに、挑戦できるようになりますよ
So you have to
と。
beat the base campaign
これ要望
on
多
your
かったや
account
つですね。
once, and then you can go into penitence, and let's see how that turns out for this person. Oh,
さあ
yeah,
どう
you
な
know
る
the
でしょう
type.
と。
Just a few a few too many demons.
Just a couple few too many demons. Yeah.
Mythic uniques.
So,
ちょっと
so you can do penitence at level 1 now. It's pretty hard, guys. So if you plan to
結
go on
構
level 1,
難易度
be
高くなっ
prepared.
てしまうけれども、レベル1からペネテントに挑戦できるようになりますよということですね。ペネテントは日本語版は何て呼ばれてましたかね。今までだとレベル50以上じゃないと、挑戦できなかった難易度なんですけれども。
And you know, as we've shown in the footage, it can be difficult, but I think what's nice is like if someone creates alts and they end up, you know, finding a bunch of mythic uniques and stuff which you can use at earlier levels, you then can at least potentially start off in Penitent a little bit earlier and you know, stay with a higher difficulty in that type of way, which is nice.
Oh, yeah.
We really want to embrace like the sort of choose your difficulty that we really liked with the mine cages in season 5, 4, and 5. And again, like to your point, alts just are able to speed run their way to max level, right, by playing at a really hard difficulty.
Exactly.
So it should feel a lot better.
And it feels great to just hop into Penitent early, like when you're capable of doing it. It's just awesome.
Yeah, we don't necessarily expect everyone to play at Penitent. It's really hard to play at your own risk. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Your character needs to be pretty good.
Yeah.
結構キャラが強くないとしんどいと思うよということですね。で、アイテム設計の変更について。
And we do like that, but we know that people want to see the journey for those non-ancestral items to be a little punchier.
それアイテム、それでない普通のレジェンダリーアイテムのランクですね。名工品制作のランクが8まで上げられるようにしました。はい、もともと4までしか上げられなかったのを8まで上げられるようにしましたということですね。
We saw that people were going to like the boss ladder, or they were just finding uniques out in the world.
それとあと、焼き戻しも2回できるようにしていますと。
They're so rare, and you know you want finding a unique item to be an exciting moment, and so we've tripled the chance for them to drop as ancestral, and this should help a lot, especially during the boss ladder. You know when you're killing these uber bosses and they're dropping lots of uniques.
ユニークアイテムがそれアイテムとしてドロップする可能性確率を3倍にしました。怪盗優さん8までだとだいぶ変わるよねということですね。
Items that you can chase that just enhance that build.
Right.
And we saw that like not having that second tempered affix and not having those 8 masterwork ranks really sort of hindered your ability to get that build online, to get into the fun and start blasting.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because we don't want you to feel like you have to find ancestrals for your build to function. And, you know, this change is working towards making that true.
Definitely.
それアイテムじゃないとダメだっていうふうにはしたくないのでということですね。
We are adding some scrolls of restoration to the season journey. The scrolls of restoration are the
これ
scrolls of tempering that we
焼き
talked about
戻
at
し
Gamescom.
の
You can use
リ
them
セッ
to
トの
reset
巻物
the
だと思い
tempering
ます。
chances on an item. And we wanted to add these to the season journey so you could just have a couple of
シー
deterministic
ズ
ways
ン
to
ジャー
acquire
ニー
them
の
and use them on
最
your
後
gear.
の2つのステー
And this,
ジ
of course, is not the only place you
の
can earn these
報
scrolls.
酬なのかな
You can earn
に
them throughout the world. There's
追加
a
され
small drop
る
chance. And
よ
we'll
う
be
で
actually
す。
talking about another way of earning them later on as well.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that I'm excited about on the unique changes, if you equate greater affixes in Season 5 to Ancestral,
Yeah.
you're actually going to have a higher chance to get an Ancestral unique compared to getting a greater affix on a unique than live, right? So it means that uniques are really exciting. You might actually get like the Staff of Endless
あ、
Rage,
トモ
for
ハイドさん、
example.
だい
Maybe
ぶ
you're
遅
not
れま
playing
した
a
が、こんばんは
Fireball
です。
sword,
と
but
いう
now
こと
you'll
で、
have
ありがとうございます。今日も
version of this unique.
楽しんでいってください。 いつものテンションで。
Kind of gets you to experiment a little bit more, and we really like that aspect about those uniques sometimes being a lot more powerful.
Yeah, no, we want that moment when you see a unique on the ground to be really fun and exciting, and seeing it
あ
drop
の
as
ユ
an
ニークが
ancestral
ドロ
with
ッ
greater
プした時
affixes
に
is about as
ワクワ
exciting
ク
as
ド
it
キド
gets
キ
for
する
uniques.
ようになってほしいなというふうに思っていますというこ
All
と
right,
で
let's
すね。
talk about some player power changes
そ
based on
し
PTR
て、
feedback.
プレイ
So
ヤ
I
ー
want to
の
start by framing
パワ
our
ーです
goals
ねに関
for
する変
Torment
更。
difficulties. So Torment 1, we want all content to be available in the game. You can fight Lilith, you can fight the boss ladder, you can go to the Dark Citadel, you know, etc. All these activities are
ト
available.
ーメント1に入ったらもうすべてのあらゆるコンテンツを、体験できるようにしたいと。
Torment 4 is like the essence of Diablo, like build crafting, where you're just pushing your character as far as you can go. And Torment 4 exists for that purpose, for people who want to push their character as far as they can go.
PTR では、トーメント4は、ピットレベル60だったかななんかに相当するとされてたんですけれども、それをさらに上げるみたいですね。
We've reverted the skill damage bonus from main stat back to what it was in Season 5. So we had actually doubled it in the PTR, but we found that that was just giving players too much power.
Too much.
So we sent it back. And we also pulled back on Legendary Glyph power a bit. Colin, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we reduced the scaling on the glyphs quite a bit because we found that it was really devaluing a lot of the aspect rolls or rolls on your gear. Like when you're getting 2,000 additive damage from a glyph, it's really hard to actually feel anything on your gear through tempering or through those affixes that are dropping. So essentially what we've done is pare that back. We've redistributed it. We'll cover that a little bit on like where we put some of that power. But overall, we think this feels a lot better. Glyphs aren't just carrying like 80% of your power on a build. And it just feels a lot better so that it doesn't feel as sort of mandatory that I have to get all 5 glyphs and level them up to actually be pushing difficulty. It's a lot more about what are the aspects you have, what are the uniques you have, what are the nodes you're actually getting on the Paragon board. I think it feels a lot better.
Yeah, and like I think one of the important things to say about this is that like it's really awesome to get a tremendous amount of power from one source, but because there are so many different sources of power in the game, if one source gives too much power, it makes the other sources feel kind of unimportant. And that's not fun. So
ちょっと行き過ぎてたってことでしょうかね。それをうまくもうちょっとバランスよくしたってことでしょうかね。
Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. I know tons of changes here with player power. Tons of changes with like progression, including difficulty.
Main stat now contributes far less skill damage.
I think one thing I think that's really important to touch on is the torment goals here, right? Because it's a definite fundamental shift from Season 5 in that you think about World Tier 3 into World Tier 4.
トモハイドさん、前回比較的あっさりやったんで、今回はこってりめで頼むで、ブリちゃんということですね。
But essentially Torment 2, 3, and 4 increase the odds of those things happening. So it's just efficiency, right?
Yep.
We don't necessarily want to say you must get to Torment 4 to experience the game or to get the best drops in the game.
そうですね。最高のアイテムを装備を得るために、トーメント4まで行かないといけないような状況にはしたくないと。あらゆる最高の装備はトーメント1でゲットすることができますよと。トーメント4、トーメント4はあくまでもチャレンジ、プッシュしたい人のための難易度ですよ。
Definitely. Awesome. Well, I know the next topic we want to talk about is some of the big system changes that are actually coming with Vessel of Hatred, and also changes that we're applying post PTR from things that we actually learned. Colin, you want to walk us through and start us off with some of the Paragon stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we got a ton of feedback from the PTR, and we took a look at Paragon. That was one of the bigger changes that we made, where we capped the boards, because we feel like that gives us a lot more space to increase the power of each of these boards and make the choice more about what is the board you're looking for. So what we've done here is we've added a bunch of normal nodes, so those are things like stats.
通常ノード、白色の通常ノードをもっと有意義なものにしたいということみたいですね。で、
and then the starting board, I think we went to like 12 or something like that, just because, the starting board should feel really good with that.
レベル46から変わるそのレジェンダリーグリフですね。レジェンダリーグリフによって範囲が広がると、でそういった時にノーマルノードがより活躍光るようにしたいと。
And we've just opened that up to say damage, right? That's going to scale everything across your character as opposed to like while you're doing this sort of obscure thing. So we think that feels a lot better. We've also just sort of taken a look at what are the affixes we're giving, like fucking potion healing. I know you're all going to be really sad.
That's my favorite stuff.
I know you're all super sad to see that we've taken potion healing out, but we've just changed it to healing received. We've also just taken a look at things like damage reduction from dots and damage reduction, so it should be a lot more generically useful. This board should feel a lot more
回復量のアップ
That's sort of doubling down on the spirit of
と
what
か
we've done.
あまり
Itemization,
取得されていない
some of these conditional things aren't necessarily adding a ton of value to your build
ノードも
just opening things up.
若干見直したという
And
こ
then
と
the
か
next
な。
thing we've done is we talked about redistributing some of the power on those glyphs, and we've taken a look at all of our nodes, all of magic and rare nodes, and we've just buffed all of them. So we've doubled all the additive bonuses on rare and magic nodes. We've increased the damage reduction values by about 1.5x, so they should feel a lot more chunky. And as you're journeying through Paragon, right, you should feel like you have more options than to just bum rush every glyph, socket, and every legendary node. There should be some pretty punchy like damage sources that you can get, damage reduction sources you can get. We've also done things like all the resistance nodes you have on the Paragon board actually give max resistance as well now. So it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of changes there. So this is one of the first steps we're taking to really improve the Paragon system with the new sort of philosophy of like we want you to pick what boards you want. And we expect to be updating more in the future.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that this harkens back to what you were just saying, which is that it's
パラ
really
ゴンボードについてアップデートする予定が計画があるよと
the tons and tons of power that was in
予
glyphs
定だ
and
よ
kind
と
of slightly
いうことです
redistributing
ね。
it to Paragon. So going through your Paragon board is just more interesting and fun.
Definitely. Cool.
Next up, we got, I think, Infernal Hordes.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you remember, Infernal Hordes was under construction during the PTR as we were fitting in, like how does this going to work with the greater equipment chest, turning it into ancestral items. And there are three things that we really wanted to tackle as a part of this release, right? Infernal Hordes is an eternal game mode, so we wanted to take the learnings we got from Season 5 and apply it to this next update. So one of the things we saw was that loot was just dominating the reward landscape here. Like
地面に落ちたその
It's cool for Season 5 and it's the brand new activity for Season 5.
ドロップを拾うのがとにかくフラストレーション溜まるということのようですね。 それとあとユニークを、ターゲットファームするのが難しいと。おっさんさん、継続ダメージ軽減がダメージ軽減に置き換えはかなり話変わりますね。
And that sort of led to a frustrating and tedious reward flow where you're just constantly opening up these 28th of chests over and over and over. I know I've spent, probably more time opening the material chest than actually.
I mean, I think that's everyone's favorite pastime of just like running around the material chest.
素材の宝箱の周りを延々とぐるぐるぐるぐるぐるぐるぐる回ってっていう。そういうフラストレーションとかの話ですね。
They're just uncommonly found throughout the world. We want this to be like an oh shit moment when the key drops, just because you're going to get a ton of XP from killing the hordes, you're going to get a ton of materials and a ton of items as well. So we think that will make the keys feel a lot more interesting, and it's not going to bloat your inventory as much. And you really want to use them when you get them. So the next part here is, if we could go back to the slide. Oh, if we could go to Infernal Hordes.
Infernal Hordes. There you go.
The council boss, no matter what, as long as you kill that council, they're going to drop dungeon boss loot, which is going to be legendaries, crafting materials, gold, etc. on top of the Infernal Horde.
将棋会議員を、倒すと必ずユニークアイテムと、ダンジョンボスの、ドロップですね。ダンジョンボス用のドロップを、落とすということの落とすようになるということのようです。
So the chests of greater equipment are going to drop those scrolls of restoration or retempering. So you're going to be able to get them reliably from the Infernal Hordes, not just the Dark Citadel. And that should feel pretty meaty and good. And then we've also guaranteed some amount of ancestral items from that greater equipment chest.
60箱が200箱になるってことかな?
So that should feel pretty meaty. And then the chest of materials is now just going to convert all your Aether into materials. You don't have to like constantly open the chest.
で、ゴールドのチェストは変わらず、素材のチェストは、
And the gold chest is the same.
Yeah, because it's a good bunch.
Next up, I know we have the
残りすべてのエーテルを消費して、素材を一括ドロップってことかな。ちょっと後でまた確認してみます。はい。いくらか聞き逃してる部分があるので。
Definitely fixed the problem there, and that should feel a lot more rewarding. We've also added just experience to the Nightmare Dungeon completion, which just feels better as you're grinding that Paragon. Also, while you're leveling up, it's like a pretty good hit of XP. And then we've also done miscellaneous buffs to just miscellaneous things. So Hellborn will drop loot, Butcher is going to drop a guaranteed axe, I believe, a butcher's axe. The world boss, treasure goblins, those are all going to drop a lot better loot. It's also going to scale with torment.
ヘルボーン、ブッチャー、ワールドボス、トレジャーゴブ、トレゴブの、ドロップをもっと充実させますよということですね。
It's an exciting moment, and the loot should reflect that.
Yeah, I love that loot explosion.
Yeah, treasure goblin.
Yeah.
Nothing beats finding a treasure goblin at like level 5 and just chasing it around using your like basic attack.
Yeah, and a guarantee drop. So
ただ充実させてボロボロたくさん落ちると、コンソールパッド使ってる人とかまた拾うの大変じゃないかな。
We've actually just done that across the game. So campaign feels really good in terms of experience granted. Side quests should feel really good, especially in Nahon 2. But what we saw with the Stronghold experience in the PTR is that 2 levels felt a little bit aggressive and like sort of forced you to do Strongholds over and over and over. We've just pared that back down to 1.25.
拠点、先ほどちょっと話したことですね。拠点の報酬経験値がちょっと行き過ぎてたかなという感じがするので、拠点攻略をした時の経験値をレベル2つ分からレベル 1.25 分 の経験値に、減らしますということのようです。
So that means you're not going to be able to sort of, cheese running strongholds over and over and over.
Thank you, Rax, for showing that with your friends from your chat that did that in 20 minutes. We most definitely.
ラックスのデモンストレーションですね。
The next one here is we heard a ton of feedback that
仲間を使って、いわゆるグリッチ、レベル上げをするグリッチのデモンストレーションの話だと思います。
Get him out of here.
Yeah, get him out. And then the next one is just a nice quality of life. The Paragon glyphs now drop from the pit. So when you're doing a bunch of pit runs, you're also going to be getting glyphs.
パラゴングリフがピットからもドロップするようになりますよ。
I mean, that's really nice too because, theoretically you could enter the pit and not actually have a glyph, but now you will. So you can find one and level up if that's what happens.
Awesome, and I know last but not least we have kind of itemization craft. This is some big stuff here that I know will excite players for sure.
Yeah. So one of the things we've heard a ton
アイテム設計とクラフトですね。神秘ユニークの、アップデート、クラフトアップデートですね。
And we saw this as an opportunity to essentially create an identity between the rune crafting of mythic uniques and the blacksmith. We moved it from the alchemist to the blacksmith version of crafting mythic uniques. So now what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to take 2 resplendent sparks to the blacksmith and get a random mythic unique. That means no matter what, as long as you do everything in the season,
神秘ユニークを作るための素材ですね。それをクラフトできるのは、クラフトできるのが、鍛冶屋になるということのようですね。
You can also get some incremental progress, right? Because they drop a lot more frequently than Mythic Unique or Sparks in general. So what this means is you now have 2 really clear means to sort of target Mythic Uniques, and you now have a guaranteed way to make a Mythic Unique at the end of a season, which we think will feel really good.
Something that's kind of cool about that is that it gives runes this like intrinsic trade value, which I kind of love.
Yeah.
Like they have this big purpose.
すみません、トモハイドさん、さすが育成に定評のあるラックス兄貴。
Finally can get my Starless Skies.
さっきの話ですね。
Cool. And then the next one here is you're going to be getting a lot of salvage and torment because everything's getting auto-salvaged. So we figured, we should probably give you some purpose and value to that salvage. And now you can take it to the blacksmith and forge random legendary equipment at the blacksmith.
Yeah, this is huge.
I love this change.
And it also has a chance to be unique or mythic and sometimes ancestral. So it's definitely a great place to dump all that excess salvage. And then the next one here is more just sort of a quality of life and nicety. We added runes, and we're putting way more sockets on here. We just allowed you to add sockets to gear with just the general salvage material. You don't need scattered prisms anymore. Scattered prisms are required for ancestral items, and that just essentially means I'm missing a socket. You can easily add one. And then the next one here is mostly a quality of life for alt characters, but the jeweler no longer has a level requirement to engage with the jeweler. Previously on the PTR, you had to trade gear to your main character, add a socket. It was super tedious, and we just made it not like that.
Awesome. So tons of big changes coming across a multitude of systems within D4. Thanks to a lot of great feedback that we got from all the players within the community, content creators, etc. So thank you guys so much for that. Thank you, Colin, for walking us through that. Next up, we want to talk about some of the class changes and everything. And so Charles here is going to walk us through it.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about some of the class changes that we saw in the PTR. Once again, I wanted to thank all of the players who gave a lot of detailed feedback, a lot of data on how classes were performing, all the different builds, and the new items, new effects, and all that kind of stuff, new skills. It's been really helpful in helping to make sure that we make all class designs as fun and engaging as possible. I do want to say that this patch is huge. There's lots of changes. As I said, a lot of new class stuff, but a lot of new system stuff across the whole game. And so we do expect some level of volatility here. And when a lot of things change, there's a lot of unknowns. And so that's just the mindset we're approaching this patch with. And what I'm going to be talking about here is not a complete detailed list of everything that we've changed from the PTR to live. It's just kind of some samples and kind of talking through our learnings and what we saw on the class design team and what we're thinking about. And so make sure you check out the full patch notes once we're done with the stream. And also,
この配信が終わった後に、パッチノートが公開されるようですね。
Oh yeah.
So, starting with the Barbarian, we generally saw
ク
that
ラス
Barbarian
バラン
class
ス
was
チ
a
ェン
little bit
ジ
too weak
です
on
ね。
PTR.
で、まず
And I
バ
think even
ー
on
バリ
season
アンか
5,
ら
I think it's just generally considered a little
ア
too
ッ
weak.
プヒーブル
Historically, though, it's been one of our stronger classes, but in recent seasons, it's fallen a little bit on harder
で
times.
すね。
So a lot of our focus here is buffs to some underutilized skills and legendaries and uniques. So we've got updates to upheaval to make it just a little bit more punchy, hits a little bit harder. We've got updates
いつもと同じパターンですね。あまり使われてないスキルにバフをかけるといういつも通りの流れのようです。
Martial Vigor passive. That is a passive in the skill tree that gives you some damage reduction from elite enemies, including bosses. And it might seem pretty small on paper. It's just 4% to 6%. But for every skill rank you have in that, you get that much more. And really, when you're fighting the late game tormented bosses and high torment tiers, it's going to be a pretty noticeable amount of survivability against those boss fights for barbarians.
Yeah, those passive skills add up really quickly when you start getting a bunch of rings and stuff.
ダメージリダクション、ダメージ低減のパッシブが、ハイレベルのコンテンツをプッシュするときに、その効果がそれと分かるようなレベルのものにしているようですね。
So we're definitely addressing those. I also wanted to talk about Nature's Fury. This is a key passive that whenever you cast an Earth or Storm skill, there's a chance to cast the same skill chance to cast a skill of the opposite type. And this was causing some unintended interactions with one of the unique items, the Earthbreaker ring, that ended up proccing or triggering Nature's Fury way more often than we intended. That's because we have this concept of casts, where you actually need to press the button and then, hey, you did one cast. And whenever we do something like auto casts, which is like, hey, I triggered a free skill with Nature's Fury, that shouldn't kind of recursively trigger or trigger the other effects that are looking for casts. But in that particular interaction it was, and so we've fixed that interaction, but then thrown some pretty big buffs to those items and the things affected in that build. We still expect those kind of things, especially landslide builds that use this a lot, to still be very powerful builds going forward. But we just didn't want that one particular unintended interaction to be happening.
And that kind of overshines, all the builds, right? When you have like one build that's, crazy over, the top. So
exactly, yeah. Especially whenever there's one build that's so dominant, it really makes it feel like, hey, I'm playing the class wrong if I'm not doing this, and that's not something that we want. We want you to be able to play all the different ways of playing the classes and feel like it's a valid and viable choice to compete. Or to complete the game.
なんか、
some of the other changes on Druid as well. We've got
壊れビルドが一つあって、で、それ以外のビルドを遊んでるときに、何かを私、間違ったことやってる間違ったことやってるのだからダメージ出ないのみたいなことにはしたくないと、なるべく多くのビルドを、
previously it just gave skill ranks, which kind of fell off as you got a lot of skill ranks. Now it's just multiplicative damage, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some companion druids in the new season, especially with the new key passive. All right, moving on to the Necromancer. So the Necromancer is a class that I think we saw a lot of variety for like blood, bone, shadow belts, a lot of those work really very well. But Necromancer is really all about minions, right? And unfortunately, we saw
で、トムアイドさん、打ち払い、毎回強化もらってるけど、根本がということなんですね。なるほど。ちょっと私もそろそろバーバリアンどっかでちゃんとプレイしないとダメですね。
The minion fantasy is really a powerful and compelling one. We also saw that Necromancer was one of the squishier classes. It had a little bit less defensive oomph than we really wanted. And so we've made some updates here to Reap. It's going to give a little bit longer damage reduction. Just makes that a little bit more usable for that function.
ネクロマンサーはちょっと打たれ弱い性質、現状のビルドのクラスの中では打たれ弱い部類に入るので、リープとかで
previously it just gave you attack speed for your minions. Now it's also
ダメージ低減の時間を伸ばすなどして、ちょっとそこら辺に配慮してみましたということですね。
properly attributed to your minions rather than the necromancer themselves, which means if you have bonus golem damage, for instance, and your golem triggers Ring of Mendeln, it's now going to benefit properly and it's going to be multiplied up by those multipliers. So pretty big buffs for those legendaries and uniques.
Yeah, that's a lot of power for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Moving on, we've got next class we'll talk about the rogue. I think the rogue in general was performing pretty well across the board in the PTR. I think we got a lot of positive feedback. Like, hey, yeah, rogue feels great.
いい感じ。
Spin to win. Yes, spin to win. The Dance of Knives skill in particular.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I was really happy with where Dance of Knives landed as the new skill. It found a lot of use in a variety of builds, and people have a lot of fun playing with it. We did notice a little bit of the melee focus builds with Flurry and Twisted Blades falling behind just a little bit. So a few of our changes here are focused on enhancing the legendaries that talk to those two, Encircling Blades and Blade Dancers. In terms of key passives, we saw Victimize did have a bug that caused its damage scaling to be higher than intended. And so we have fixed that math calculation on how it kind of scales damage based on other damage. Because it was really just a little bit too dominant. And now we think with this update, it'll still be a competitive choice, but it will completely outshine every other key passive on the rogue.
ちょっと OP 気味だったので、
just to make it work a little bit better.
少し調整を入れますと。
Love me some Rain of Arrows. It's a very flashy skill, especially with all those colors with the imbuements on it. All right, and finally, the Sorcerer. The Sorcerer was definitely the strongest class I think we saw on the PTR by a fair margin.
Just a little bit, you know?
It was
ソーサレスは全体の中で一番強いクラス。
And Enlightenment had an issue where it's all about alternating skill casts. So, okay, you cast a fire skill, you cast a lightning skill, you cast a cold skill, and you get these stacks really quickly. Unfortunately, it was stacking up unintentionally from some of those auto casts that we were talking about earlier with Nature's Fury, where when you trigger bonus casts from like unstable currents, it was actually ramping up the Enlightenment way too fast. And so we fixed that interaction, but we think despite that, Enlightenment is still one of the strongest key passives of sort. So it's just brings it down a little bit, but we still think this is going to be a really powerful and compelling new key passive to play with once we go live. Two other changes here with the Flame Scar and Oculus uniques. This is kind of adding in this chance to deal double damage affixes for Incinerate and Teleport respectively. This harkens back to what I talked about on the PTR stream, where we're adding these multiplicative damage bonuses into tempering for weapons. And of course, we can't temper onto unique items, but for a lot of the unique items that are about very specific skills, such as Flame Scar and Oculus, we've taken a pass to add in some of these affixes that enhance those skills in multiplicative ways to really make sure that, you know, Incinerate gets the same benefit from using that unique as opposed to just a legendary that you would temper this affix onto anyway.
It's a massive buff.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely massive.
Size is like, I like pull out a ruler. Like, is it actually?
Is it working?
Yeah. Incinerate size and teleport size maybe not the most compelling affix. Now you just get some of this multiplicative damage. If somebody wants to make an Oculus build where most of the damage comes from teleport, that's going to be awesome. We'll see if you can manage to make that work.
Yeah, I love that idea.
これ今のソーサレスのビルド分かってないと訳しにくいな。
Once again, I just wanted to thank everyone for all the great feedback. We on the class design team in particular are always reading and listening to feedback on how you're playing the classes, what builds you're finding fun, what things are over or underpowered. We listen to it, we read your feedback, we watch the videos that you make. We really appreciate all of it, and it really helps us to make the game as best as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charles, for walking us through all the
フィ
changes
ードバ
coming
ック
for
本当にありがとうねっ
class
て
design.
すべてのコメント、それとあと動画、そういったようなものを参考にさせてもらって、とても助けになりました。
And you'll see 2.0.2 patch notes. So there's 202 and 201. 202 is actually not on like people's PCs yet. You haven't preloaded that. That is going to be the last update you'll need to grab before we jump into launch for Vessel of Hatred. But you will get all the patch notes after the stream, so you can dig through all the class changes that we didn't cover and all the ins and outs of it between now and what we have for PTR. So last but not least,
この配信の後に公開されますよ。
I think we're going to jump straight into it. So Anthony, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, awesome feedback. We got lots of different things that came in, and we've heard multiple times a couple different things with the Runewords that really just people kept repeating over and over again, really mostly stemming down to two major issues with the whole system. And so previously we had
Runewords 全体的に2つの問題があると。
a lot stronger, you know, because you want to reach that point eventually to where you get the powerful runes and then you play the game that way. Well, that was kind of outshining a lot of the other possibilities and like the idea that we had with the runes where you're mixing and matching, creating different combinations. So what we are ending up doing now is we are taking that top end and we're going to bring it down. And then on the flip side, the second thing that we heard a lot of is those bottom runes, those I don't want to say bottom runes, the magic and rare runes that you find a little earlier, especially those runes of ritual where you are, those are the ones where you're actually like doing things to gain offering to then invoke those runes of invocation, those powers that you have. Those were intentionally a bit lower so that you have some progress, but it felt like when you get them, it wasn't enough. You didn't get to really feel those runes happen and pop off when you get them. So on the other side, we are taking that bottom end and bringing it up. So together, we're kind of, I don't want to say flattening out, but we are making it a lot more options for the players to really have choices throughout your whole journey rather than just a linear, you know, get the stronger one and then obviously it's stronger. And what this will also do, and the focus on this is to also make those utility runes really, really potent and really pop off and a lot more visual things to happen. And then finally, we removed a couple runes that weren't quite meeting our expectations. We have this thing that we say every once in a while, which is like condense the fun, and we want to make that, you know, like the ideal situation where we have, you know, the runes that we have are the ones that are cool and fun, and not like over bloated with just a bunch of things that don't always like meet those expectations.
Yeah, so we want you to have lots of options, and we don't want individual runes or effects to really overshadow everything else. But that does mean that, you know, we want to make sure that all the options are really compelling. And so ones that aren't meeting our bar, we just would rather take them out rather than leave them in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we're always going to be adding to the rune system.
Of course.
Right? So we want to leave ourselves the space. We didn't want to water down the pool with things like the lightning bolt effect rune. It's like that didn't really have, it was an evolutionary dead ends. We didn't necessarily have any way to juice that up. So we want when a rune drops for it to feel like, oh, there's this new toy I can play with, right?
It's important that every choice in the rune system is meaningful. Like every possible rune you can take or combination, like there's something there, right?
Yeah, you want to feel it for sure, and it doesn't want to be something that, you know, you just like, oh, I got this rune, and it's like, well, let me find another one. So.
なんかルーンを拾ったとして、いらない、なんか次の探すわみたいな。そういうことにはしたくない。
So while it was giving berserking to everyone, it was a big power bonus. And so we're going to bring that down a little bit by just, it's no longer going to give that that enhanced version. It's just the baseline version, so it no longer gives berserking to all players. That does mean it still works for barbarians because that is their skill. They should still be able to gain that power as they would expect. And then down at the Yam, which is that druid petrify, the rune itself is not changing. What's actually changing is on druids themselves, their ultimate there is no longer going to give that critical bonus baseline. It's now going to be the enhanced version. So if you want that as a druid, you can still get that big, powerful critical damage bonus. But now that baseline is going to be that big stun, that big AoE moment that you see everything on the screen freeze, and also just juice you up with a bunch of resource. And this is general like class resource. So unlike what it'll say for the druid is it says their spirit goes up. On the rune, it says it is your resource, so everyone gets this huge, big moment where you can kind of reset. So
if I'm a sorcerer, it doesn't generate spirit; it generates mana.
Yes,
it'll give you mana,
right.
You don't just get a second bubble that then fills up with spirit.
Suddenly you're a druid.
いや、だからリソースをマナに統一したらいいんじゃないかと言ってるんだけど。
Which is sort of what we had been originally intending, right? Not every choice is going to be a multiplicative damage source. So you should have a lot more options. It's more focused on utility.
Yeah, absolutely.
And stealing other classes' power.
Yeah, obviously multiplicative damage is probably the single strongest thing you can do in an ARPG. And just when we noticed these ones were really those ones that are overshadowing every other option, we still think those will find a great niche for the builds that want it, but they won't be the only choice that no one else can use anything else for.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so here's some examples. Again,
ボトムアップする対象ですね。
not all of them. There are a bunch of changes. You guys will see them in patch
これはあ
notes
くま
as
で
we
一例
already
ですと。
talked about. But some of the big ones that I wanted to show off here. So Spiritborn Vortex, that's the one
はい、
that pulls
クライル
everyone
ーン、
in.
スピリ
You
ッ
group
トボー
everything
ンのボ
together.
ルテックス、
That is going to
吸
be
引バキューム効果ですね。
You're going to be able to get that off almost twice as often as it was before. So you're
その
combine that
頻
in
度
with
を
something that, you know,
2倍
has
に
some grindy
2倍弱に
damage
し
in the
まし
middle,
た。
and you're going to be just having this pop off all the time, as well as so we call them sub powers. Those are things like the sorcerer meteorites or like the barbarian earthquakes. Those things that happen
メテオじゃない
based on other
隕石が
things,
落
but
ちて
they
くる
create
やつ
like
です
another
ね。
power that comes out. We are juicing those up a lot more. So these should be
5倍以
some
上
of the
の
most
ダメー
powerful
ジに
versions of these
するみたいで
sub-powers
す
in the
ね。
game from these runes. And as you can see here, meteorites is jumping up a whole bunch, as well as the offering cost is going down. So you're going to be able to
そ
summon
れ
a
とあ
lot more of
と、
these as well.
発動
And
の
then
す
one
る
of the
ための
other
コストを
things
若干下げ
I
たと。
saw feedback was around the Se rune.
セールーン、スピリットウルフを召喚するルーンですね。
Spirit wolves, and they didn't feel as impactful because their AI was not as poppy as like say
AI が
the
おバカで敵にかかっていかなかったけれども、これをもっと頻繁に敵に飛びかかっていくようにするよと。
They're going to pop up and do their attack. And if you jump to the next pack, they're going to jump forward. Except this is going to happen a lot more frequently than before. So now if you
以前よりも
fight that pack, jump to the next
攻
one,
撃頻度が
every time
大幅に上がりますよ
those
と。
wolves are going to just keep jumping and keep leaping. And this works in ranged as well.
トモハイドさん、
So if you're
強さだけなら低いルーンの価値は出にくいよなと。D2 みたいに使い道いろいろなら価値も出ると思うのですが、で、このルーンの担当の方、チームの中ではかなり過激派な香りがする。
Yeah, they feel a lot more responsive and like even in that clip, we saw them jump into the pack at basically the same time we did, right? They are right
ト
there
モ
with
ハ
you.
イ
They're
ド
not
さんの
lagging
一番
behind.
最後のコメントはちょっと私も思うところが少しあります。
What are they doing? They're like
they're a mile away.
They're no longer lazy dogs. There.
Yeah, they were tired. They were tired.
Tired little pups, you know? And then here's some examples of those runes of ritual. Again, those are the ones that are generating this offering.
儀式のルーンのボトムアップ例ですね。
changes to those magic and rare runes, where we've taken that offering they give and we've really knocked it up to be a lot closer to where those legendary versions of these are, and that should hopefully give us a lot more options when it comes to deciding which combination of which runes that we are using. So.
It also just means things are a lot more reliable. Like you're actually getting procs way more often with these buffs.
Yeah, you actually get to see the fun happen, right? See those effects happen a little bit more often.
Yeah, so tons of rune changes that are coming. And as Anthony mentioned, there's way more details in the actual patch notes themselves.
パッチノート見てもらうとわかるけれども、これは一例だけで、もっとたくさんの変更点があるよ。
You know, I had one thing because I think we might have forgotten it, and I'm very concerned about monitor violence.
Oh, yes.
We heard a lot of people wanted to punch their monitors.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
When you get a greater affix on impairment resistance. So, as monitor enthusiasts, we've just removed that from the affix pool.
Yes.
So please don't.
Please don't. Less punching of monitors.
Save the monitors, please.
And one thing I do want to call out on Runewords, we actually, funny enough, we got a lot of feedback about players saying like, hey, we noticed like different art on some of the classic runes that they may have seen from like back in D2. That art has been updated to match what you saw in D2. So
harkens back.
Yes, yeah,
that's cool.
Shout out to the history of runes there for everyone. So thank you guys for jumping into this. And I will say, like, this team is going to be staying vigilant through the launch of Vessel of Hatred with our live ops teams here. Shout out to our live ops team who will be helping us out through multitudes of patches, hot fixes. We're going to be paying attention to the community and hearing all the feedback that players have, and we'll be jumping on a lot of the big things that we do notice and we do want to jump kind of address earlier on, especially right after launch. So our cadence is going to be quick. So do expect that. We'll be posting all notes, all hotfix notes, etc. Whenever they do come up. So thank you guys again for joining us today to talk about the PTR learnings. Next up, we actually are going to start talking about the next season coming to Diablo 4, which is season 6, and that will actually start with the launch of Vessel of Hatred. We're going to do another quick mic swap, musical chairs thing. Maybe we turn on Benny Hill music or something like that. But we'll be right back here with our next group to talk about season 6.
またブレイク入れますよということですね。で、次のトピックは、シーズナルコンテンツですね。はい。シーズン6のシーズンテーマに、ついての、初お披露目になるんでしょうかね。はい。いやー、やっぱクラスバランスチェンジはあれですね。実際に自分でプレイしてないとわからないですね。それとあと、英語版の名前、スキルの名前と、日本語版のスキルの名前との対応関係をちゃんと把握してないと訳せないかな。トムハイドさん、一旦お疲れ様ですということでありがとうございます。まあ、ルーンに関しては結構いろいろ思うところが個人的にはあるんですけれども、ちょっと後でディアブロ2のデモを皆さんにご覧に入れようと思います。ディアブロ2のルーンワードっていうのはどんな感じだったのかっていうのをまあディアブロ2プレイ済みの方はもうとうにご存知のことだと思うので今更っていう感じのものだと思いますけれども、はい、ディアブロ4からディアブロ2シリーズに入ったという方も結構いらっしゃると思うので、はい。結構音楽いいですね、これ。またこいつ出すの名前何だったか忘れましたけれども、はい。海藤優さん、ソサは召喚の達人が64体出せてぶっ壊れてたのと、はい。で、粉砕、重要パッシブのですね、粉砕がダメージがループしているのかなと、おかしな感じで壊れてましたと。挙動がおかしかったんですね。 はい。なるほど。召喚の達人は普通のパッシブだったかな。はい。で、トモハイドさん、謎のテクノ系に変わった。もうそろそろいいんじゃないの？まだ頑張るの？一つ気になるのは、
All right, we're back. Sorry for that. I'm glad you guys got to watch Dancing Demons and everything like that and see our release date map. But we're back here to talk about Season 6. This is the new season.
2人が既存のメンツ、1人新顔かな？
Who we already know, our game director here. But, Tim, Don, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yes, my name is Tim Ismay. I am one of the lead producers on Diablo IV. I mostly work on seasons.
I'm Don Adams. I'm the lead season designer for Season 6, the Season of Hatred Rising.
Also known as content supervisor.
Also known as content supervisor.
There you go.
From time to time.
There we go. Awesome. So, as Don just mentioned here, Season 6 is Season of Hatred Rising. Tim, do you want to explain to us what Hatred Rising, or Brent?
Yeah, I'll take this one.
Okay.
Yeah, so when we started off with this, we really knew we wanted to make sure that we were launching a brand new season right alongside a Vessel of Hatred. We wanted that to be day and date. So like continuity was really important to us. And so the idea that the hatred of Mephisto and Nahantu is spilling out into the rest of Sanctuary was kind of the anchor that we were holding on to, and we started talking about what that would mean to make a whole season around that.
Awesome. And I know with kind of like what players hearing Hatred Rising, they're hearing about, Mephisto and his hatred potentially leaking out into Nahantu, maybe the rest of Sanctuary. Like, what can players expect with this actual season?
Yeah, so a lot of actually what is going to be the core of Season 6 and the Season 6 experience, players have already gotten exposed to. So anybody who's playing on the PTR has been reading about the changes we put up there. Fundamental to the release of Vessel of Hatred, Season 6 brings big changes where every single class is going to gain access to new skill points. They're going to gain new skills across all the classes. They're going to gain more Paragon points, new legendary Paragon glyphs. These are all changes that are being added to the base of the game, meaning you do not need to have Vessel of Hatred to gain access to these.
さらなるスキルポイント、さらなるスキル、さらなるパラゴンポイント、新しいレジェンダリーグリフ、新しいレジェンダリーとユニークアイテムと、神秘ユニーク。
Just new levels of power that were not possible before in the game. Now, to go along with this power, we will be adding these new difficulty levels.
今まで見たこともないようなビルド。
So you have the ability to challenge these new levels of power. I want to say that it's all going to even out well.
こういったような新しい要素、新要素が入ってきます。
Constant trying to get that balance just right based on all the feedback that comes in. I know that maybe it'll be out for a day before someone's posting a video and saying, "Oh, look at this! I do 1 trillion damage," and it'll go all over the internet. Like, I've never seen numbers this big, and that's yeah. But we tried to get it there. You're going to see crazy builds. Those are going to link into new difficulties that were never there before to try and all this new content.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I know all these things the players got to experience a little bit in PTR. They got to see it, they got to check it out early. But of course,
数値圧縮の話は一切今まで出てませんでしたね。
Don, do you want to talk a little bit more about what players can also see beyond what Tim kind of walked through?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we mentioned, this is the Season of Hatred Rising, so we really wanted to theme it around Mephisto's hatred creeping out of Nahantu and into the rest of the world. So let's go ahead and take a look at our visual aid here.
Beautiful.
I was promised
official documents.
I was promised that this would be turned into real art when I sent this over. I didn't think we'd be showing this, but hopefully this will all make sense by the end of the presentation. Just for now, just take it in.
There you go. Yeah, everyone loves designer art. It's core to all our live streams that we do. Art by Don Adams here, so.
Yeah, and frankly, I think it speaks for itself. I don't really know that there's much more to say. But let's go on and go ahead to the next slide here, and let's take a look at some real art.
はい、これ先ほど皆さんにお見せしたやつですね。
Of course, amazing key art from Dave Raposa.
キーアート、シーズン6のキーアートですね。これ、真ん中のモンスターはディアブロ3に出てきたやつかな。
You're going to see these hatred rising zone events that cycle
はい、ヘ
frequently
イトリ
throughout
ッ
the
ド
world.
ライジン
When these are
グ
up, everything in that area is going to be corrupted by hatred. You're going to be seeing environmental changes, lighting changes. The monsters will actually have, kind of hatred gummy goop on them.
緑ヘルタイドみたいな感
Ambushed from
じ
portals randomly. And really all this is just setting the stage for the Realm Walker. So you'll
あ、
have
レ
a
ルムウォ
separate
ーカー。
event
やっぱり
icon
そうです
that'll let
ね。
you know
ディア
when
ブロ
the
3に
Realm
出
Walker
て
is
き
going to be
た
up. It's a world event, so
頭
it'll
の
be
上
in
に
that
コー
list
タ
on
ル
the map with
を持ってる
other like
巨
world
大モンス
bosses
タ
and Legion
ー
events and stuff.
ですね。
And we have some video here to kind of show you what it looks like. Actually, I think we have another slide about the Realm Walker first. Sorry.
はい、レル
Yeah,
ム
so
ウォ
this
ー
is
カー、
what
こ
he
れで
looks
す
like
ね。
in game.
は
He's
い。
awesome. These are just big hulking kind of monstrosities stomping around, just spreading Mephisto's hatred. They summon in monsters from a plane of hell through this portal on their back. And a lot of the monsters they
こ
summon,
の
most of
ポ
them
ータ
are
ル
actually
を
new
介
monsters
し
from
て
Vessel
メ
Hatred
フ
of the
ィスト
Hollow
の
Sands,
像
which are super
を
cool and gross.
ばら
So
ま
I think
ばら
now
ま
we
こ
can
うと
take a look at what it actually looks like
して
in
い
game.
るらしい
So
で
there's
す
some
が
players waiting for him to spawn. He starts burrowed like that, and you can kind of click the portal to summon some stuff to fight while you're getting warmed up here. I just love these enemies. I think they're so
は
cool.
い。
The hollows.
で、
So he
地下
busts
か
out of the
ら
ground,
せり
and
上
this
が
is
ってくるわけ
actually
ですね。レ
want
ル
to
ム
do
ウォーカー
something
が。
new with this event. And lean into the fantasy of this giant thing just like stomping around. So it's actually a walking world event.
まあ、
He
ディア
has
ブロ
several different paths you
3
can
で
take
出
throughout
て
each
き
area. He
た、
walks through the zone, and as he walks, he just
最も
leaves
個
this,
性的な
chaos behind him in his
モ
way.
ン
He's
スターの
summoning
一つ
tons of hollows.
と言える
and,
かもしれないで
if
す
you get in
ね。
front of him, he just punts you out of the way and keeps going. You actually can't even damage him directly in this phase, but if you kill enough of the adds that he's spawning, it'll create these bloodbound guardians. Killing these will shave some of the HP off of the Realm Walker. So when he reaches the end of his path and you can actually fight him, you'll have less HP to burn through. So this is a nice way to incentivize actually participating, sticking around for all this chaos. Obviously, lots of XP and whatnot from the mobs as well. So this is the event that he kicks off when he actually gets to his destination. When you interrupt this ritual by destroying all of these destructive
本体を
hatred
攻撃
spires,
するん
that's
じゃ
when
な
you'll
く
actually
っ
be able to
て
fight him
本体
directly.
にライフを送り込んでる
I think we're
周
going to
囲
see that
の
here very quickly.
モン
This is
ス
a
ター
really
なり
cool encounter. There's just lots
あ
of,
の
he has a big smashy attacks. He
あ
spreads
れ
a
を
lot
攻
of
撃
damage
するんです
everywhere.
ね。
Okay, so they've taken him down, and when he
で
dies,
倒す
that
と
weird portal on his back
ポータ
drops
ルが
down and
残
stays
る
open.
と。
And there's only really one thing to do with a weird portal.
Yeah, you go in the portal.
go inside,
That's
of
your
course.
option. So
That's what
if
portals
you
are made for.
successfully killing the Realm Walker, taking down this massive demon, finally grants you your reward of more demons. So you're going to go into the Seething Realm. This is part of the Mephisto's area of hell. So you are going to have to continue fighting in here. It is not a barren landscape, but the demons you fight in here comparatively, if you were strong enough to take down a Realm Walker, don't be too worried. I think you're going to be able to manage the demons inside of the Seething Realm as well. This dungeon is a little bit more of a reward dungeon. So once you get in here, you're fighting your way through to get specific buffs at the end of it. So if we want, we can jump into the video here. Yeah, this is the first section, and this part you're just kind of mowing through some of these smaller guys. You're really just looking for a specific gate here. There's a portal that you're going to be activating and making an important choice there about which section of the seething realm you go into. Here it is. This is the gate here. So you're going to click on this. You now have options. Based on a few consumables that you can put in, you can go into sections that are more focused on equipment bonus, a gold bonus. You can get a socketable bonus. You can get more endgame items with like compasses and boss materials. So you're going to pick one of these and decide that's the section I want to go into. You're going to get some drops similar to that in this section of the dungeon. But more importantly, this is going to set you up for the type of buff you want to get at the end of the dungeon. So again, this is not an empty area. You are going to have to fight through it. You're going to encounter more hollows in here, some more elites. All of this leading up to a chest at the end. Here's your reward. So finally, you just click on this, you get your reward. Just kidding. Yeah, of course it's a cursed event.
Of course.
You're going to have to fight even more demons. Nothing's free in hell. This is just how you got to do it. So you fight your way through some more elites, but don't worry, I believe in you. You can get through this. If you kill the last guy, there's one more there. Take him down. Come on, you can get it. All right, so he goes down. Now you get your prizes. You're going to open these chests. There's a variety of loot that you get, but one specific item that you're looking for in here, which is going to be a seething opal. So these little, there they are, yeah, little seething opals. They got a little seasonal marker on them. This is special to Season 6. When you get these, I'm going to take a look here. This is going to be a buff you get based on the one that you chose. There are some fundamentals you always get. So a seething opal always gives you a 15% bonus to experience. This is especially cool because it stacks with elixirs. You can have an elixir and a seething opal active at the same time. That's a huge bonus. On top of that, any seething opal that you use is going to allow you to now get reputation with the remnants of the Zakaru. Don will talk about that more in just a second, but that's going to be the reputation track for Season 6. And then beyond that, you will get a bonus depending on
見た感じ、トマイロさん、見た感じ通常マップで出てくるのか、それとも固定なのかが気になります。通常マップで出てくるんでしょうね。ただ、要はヘルタイドと同じで、エリア、ある程度のエリアが、緑色に変わるんだと思います。で、そのエリア内で出現するということなんでしょうね。
That is going to give you some additional loot. And if you're playing content in, let's say, further in the end game, that monsters don't traditionally drop loot, not to worry, we've adjusted that as well. If you play through the pit, as an example, we have added an additional drop at the end of the pit, again, that procs based on which seething opal that you chose. There are a couple up here at the end. The socketable one I should mention. That one is special too. You do have to have this located for that one. This one is more for people that are trying to get more runes. So, obviously you need to have vessel hatred to get runes.
一番右側にあるやつは、ルーンが欲しい人にとって、ちょっと嬉しいアイテムになりそうですね。
Valuable because it's as Colin was mentioning before, like we saw what you can end up getting in infernal hordes and everything like that. It's just another opportunity to get more compasses for getting in there.
Yeah, seething opal.
レアエリクサー。ただし、通常のエリクサーと経験値ボーナスは重複するということのようです。
You mentioned stacking with elixirs. Does it also stack with incense?
Yes, it will stack with incense.
There you go. So that's a triple stack of XP right there. A lot of really cool. Yeah. So. That's awesome. So obviously, like we're seeing the rewards here, and one thing that you had mentioned, which was the Zakarum remnants. Like what, Don, can you like talk to us a little bit about kind of what that progression is going to be?
Yeah, sure. So these are the Zakarum remnants. You've probably seen these guys in Hawazar. These are the Crusaders with the rusty armor that have just been kind of bumming around.
Zakarum remnant.
They have a very personal connection with Mephisto. You know, he of course destroyed basically the Zakarum order many years ago, and at this time they're still just not really ready to stand up and fight this at full force. Right? They've been dealing with cultists, and they're just not at their full strength. So you'll meet this Crusader right at the start of the season who will give you very simple intro quest, basically, to guide you to kill a realm walker, clear a seething realm. And
先ほどのレルムウォーカーとか、そういう、まあ、いくつかのクエストを与えてくる、
the idea is that you can, go and kind of do whatever you want to do, as long as you're checking in periodically with the realm walker and keeping a stack of these opals on hand. It's very open-ended how you want to push this reputation track.
Yeah, it is always nice to see that anywhere that new demons occur in the world, there is always some faction out there that's trying to take care of them and would appreciate your help. So the Zakarum here, they've had a rough go of it, but if you can help them out, I think that we can handle this problem.
They're not at their best right now.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like about the way we've looked at this whole package is that not only have we done a bunch of diligence in making sure that the story is taking part in all of Sanctuary, we're touching on some really cool lore stuff that has existed for a long period of time, but we're also leaning into a theme of giving the players more control over the experience. And so whether it's the choice of reward,
この真ん中にいるティモシー、ブリザードのディアブロチーム随一のイケボで知られてるそうです。
Also creeping into some of the stuff you'll see with the Vessel of Hatred content in just a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully the hieroglyphs that we saw at the beginning, the designer, hopefully this makes sense. All right, you kill the realm walker to get the portal, you do the portal to get the opals, and then you go do the MS Paint sort of shapes of all the other activities that are in the game. You can also just chain run the realm walker if you'd like as well. He's up very often, and I expect people will kind of go back and forth on how often they're interacting with them. You might want to stack a bunch of opals for the weekend or something, right?
If you hate realm walkers and you're like, I just want to kill realm walkers all day, you can. But what I love about the season is exactly that. You can get the opal. It's a great buff, and now go play other content, including the new content that's coming out in Vessel of Hatred. If you bought the expansion, got a lot of options there, so you don't have to just play the seasonal content. You can go play this other stuff while still having the buff.
Including the Vessel of Hatred campaign, which is kind of the first, right? You'll need to
先ほどのエリクサーのバフですね。シーズンエリクサーのバフを使って、シーズンコンテンツじゃなくてシーズンコンテンツ以外のコンテンツ、エンドゲームコンテンツでそのバフを利用するっていうのも一つの手ですよっていうことですね。
Season of Hatred Rising content that's coming with the launch of Vessel of Hatred. This is starting right at the beginning, right when Vessel of Hatred actually comes out, which is on, again, October 7th at 4 p.m. Pacific,
for some people.
for 4 p.m. Pacific time, which is for everyone because it is one global release. So
right,
yeah, so
it'll be 7th for me.
Yeah. 7th for us here in California, but for other people, if you follow time zones, that's what it'll end up being. So we'll see Tim more during our Q&A at the end, but we are actually going to jump into some of the Vessel of Hatred features next. We're going to do another musical chairs, Benny Hill style, swap out some mics and everything, but we have a lot to talk about. We got Spiritborn stuff to talk about. We got Kurast Undercity, or Kurast Undercity to talk about. Been doing that quite often this week. Dark Citadel, and of course Mercenaries. So we'll be back with a whole new crew here in just a couple minutes.
ゾウの器のコンテンツの概要について次はやりますよということですね。はい、PTR に含まれていなかった部分について、次は取り上げますよということになります。どうでしょう、ここまでの皆さんの印象。なんか気になることありました？それと怪盗優さん、64地分まで、数えるって話でしたと。で、捨てで出るんですよね。で、それなら矢の嵐も64まで出させてよと。今回ゾウの器音楽これ気合入ってるな。と トマハイドさん、いろいろ気になってましたが、イケボとイケボと謎の落書きに持っていかれました。はい、私もそのパターンです。うん、うっちゃりさん BGM 雰囲気あっていいですよね。とってもいいこれ。カリフォルニアロサンゼルス郊外のアーバイン、ニューヨーク州のニューヨーク、それとサンパウロ、ロンドン、ベルリン、イスタンブール、ソウル、シドニー、オークランド、これ多分サーバーがある場所なんでしょうね。次も4人かな。今回はたっぷり2時間以上かかりそうですね。トモアイドさん、飾ってある白い胸像ってバールのように見えましたが、バールです。はい、間違いありません。あれはバールです。左側に映ってたやつですよね。はい、バールです。ディアブロ2のシネマティックに映ってるバールそのものですね。あそこから取ってきてるんだと思いますけど。ちょっとそしたら、ブレイク中なので、サクッとトイレ行ってきます。すぐ戻りますね。
I'm in the middle of chewing a totally got me. Welcome back, guys. We are here. Sorry, to talk about Vessel of Hatred content. This is all the new content that's coming with the expansion. We've actually talked about this before in specific moments, but we didn't do like kind of bigger, deeper dives on this beyond like the Spiritborn, where we had a separate stream on, but we actually even have additional updates on that. But I want to let you guys introduce yourselves. As you can see, Brent has now moved to being next to me. He just wanted to be a little closer, that's all. But Derek, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Derek Nunez, lead season designer, and I'll be chatting about the Kurast Undercity in a few.
Bjorn.
Bjorn Mikkelsen, class designer for Spiritborn.
I'm Dan Brace, I'm a lead game designer, and I'll be talking about Mercenaries.
Awesome, cool. So, tons of content coming to Vessel of Hatred. I know players have heard us talk about it a little bit, but Brent, did you want to talk about any content specifically before we jump in?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of teeing up the next big thing that we want to talk about is just kind of how well the Spiritborn reaction has been since we've announced it. It's been amazing to see folks so excited about it. It's something that we've been pouring a lot of love into. We wanted to make sure they were adding something fresh to the game, and I really feel like we're there. But when we released it, we actually still had work to do. And so throughout the PTR, and the last few weeks of development here, we've been putting a lot of effort into polishing things up, and I'm super excited to hear Bjorn talk about what we've got in store.
Yeah, lots of internal testing. We had players actually check it out at Gamescom as well, which was really cool. So as we all know, Bjorn was on our Spiritborn reveal stream, and he's back to talk more about Spiritborn. So here is Spirit Bjorn talking more about the Spiritborn. It's hard for me to actually say Spiritborn now because I just say Spiritborn. So there we go.
Awesome. Yeah. Yes. I mean, we've seen a lot of the sort of in development side of it, and we're just going to talk about a few kind of final touches, the final version of a few things that we want to hit on quickly here in this presentation. So starting off, we're going to talk about a couple of updates to the Spiritborn's passives. First off, we have 3 additional passives which have been added to the tree. Each of these kind of amplifies how the skills work that they relate to. So we have one for core skills, one for potency skills, and one for focus skills. And that sort of lets you kind of go more all in on any of those skills. There's also here on the far side of the slide an update to Noxious Resonance, which is one of Spiritborn's key passives. We really wanted to kind of clarify how this mechanic works, how it scales, and kind of answer some lingering questions about exactly how it works. But it's still largely based around exploding the poisons on your enemies. Moving on to another thing, we're going to have a small update to the Jaguar primary spirit hall. This will still do lots of damage whenever you spec into it. It's all about damage with the Jaguar. But this has focused it a little bit more about multi-attack skills, high attack speed, and really like allowing you to ramp up the damage that you can get it. Because now it's also based around the damage that you did in a short window. So that lets you sort of echo all of that damage that you did the faster your attack. Moving on to another small, or sort of medium-sized update. There was some confusion around Spirit Feathers, Storm Feathers, the Eagle Hall, how all that kind of works together. So this is unified into a new concept just called Storm Feathers. What this is a buff that you can get. This increases your movement speed and it stacks duration. And now all of these things, they all speak to the Storm Feather concept. So you can get them, you can modify them, make them do different things, and you can even like use it to make kind of some crazy builds. I think we have a video for it where you can just kind of have feathers going all over the place as you're doing it, and you can even use like Temperine and various Paragon that increases Storm Feather potency that will speak to all of these aspects as well as the Eagle primary hall. And then moving on to the last thing we've got should be our uniques. So some of you might have gotten to see some early versions of these, but we want to kind of show off the final versions with all of their stats in all of their glory. So to start off, we have 6 unique Spiritborn rings. Each of these kind of emphasizes a combination of 2 spirits and really lets you sort of tailor how you generate your resource to sort of make the build that you're looking to make.
これだけのためにユニーク6つ作ったの？
We showed off the Scorn of the Earth boots that turns your sword into evade, and everybody really loved that. A couple other examples, we've got Craze of the Dead God, which allows you to turn poisoning, all damage coming at you into poisoning damage, and then sort of throw that back out at your enemies in the form of Touch of Death, which is pretty neat. And then we've also got our helms. We have 2 different unique helms. One is focused more along the lines of letting you sort of mix and match spirits, while the other one is more about kind of doubling down on using a single spirit. And then finally, we have our unique weapons. We've got several glaives and quarterstaffs.
聖獣か。
We already showed off the basic one, but we're going to quickly show off sort of its
さ
counterpart,
っきの
which
ヘ
is
ル
the
メッ
one
ト、
for
ヘル
your
メッ
core
トっていう
skills.
か、兜
So
ですけ
this
れど
one
も、
allows you to
複
sort
数
of
の
spam
精
your core
霊
skills
を
almost
使
as if they were
う
basics and sort of reduce damage.
タイ
But
プ
when
の
you're at maximum
兜
vigor,
と、
it ramps up to be a maximum
一つ
size,
の
guaranteed crit, just
精霊
massive
を
screen
専門
clearing
的に使
version of
う
the core skill.
の
So
に
we think that
適
one's
した
pretty fun
兜
too.
と
And
いう
then
ふうに分
lastly,
け
I
ているみ
believe
た
I
いで
have
す
a
ね。
slide just for, yeah, there we go.
追っつかないな。
Our drop tables for the bosses. So
は
if
い、
you're looking to
スピリ
target
ット
farm
ボーン
any
の
of
ユ
these
ニー
specific
ク
ones
のド
similar
ロ
to the
ップ
other
テーブ
classes,
ル
you can kind
で
of
す
farm
ね
these。based on different bosses. So take a screenshot of this and go for it.
Awesome. Yeah, tons of updates. We've done so much internal testing. We've heard a lot of feedback because we had that deep dive blog. We've seen people theory craft. We've seen people actually
うっちゃ
play
り
at
さ
a
ん、さす
Gamescom.
が
We've had a
新ク
couple
ラ
of
ス力
content
入って
creators
ま
like
す
during
な
the
ということ
Spiritborn
で。
live
はい。
stream, and
そうです
even
ね。
during our kind of a preview event, they actually got to try it out and stuff. So hearing all this feedback and then applying some of the feedback and some of the internal feedback that we ended up getting and seeing all the changes here and updating everyone has been really cool to see. So thank you again, Bjorn, for walking us through the Spiritborn. The class is incredibly fun. Day one is what I'm playing for Vessel of Hatred. I think most of us are, but it's a ton of fun to check out. Next up, what we wanted to talk about is Kurast Undercity. This is actually a feature that we did announce with Gamescom, but we didn't really get a ton of opportunities to really kind of dive deeper into what Kurast Undercity is. So, Derek, you want to take us through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the Kurast Undercity is a brand new dungeon experience that our Vessel of Hatred players will be unlocking throughout the course of the campaign. It's appropriately located in the new capital city of Kurast, but it's the part of town that's not recommended that the standard citizen venture into. It's a section of the Kurast town that is still infested by the jungles of Nahantu and kind of overrun with the worst of the worst. It's Nahantu's most wanted inside the various districts that make up the Undercity. Throughout the course, as players are unlocking it, they'll meet a new character named Seahek that kind of teaches you the laws of the Undercity and how to commune with the spirit flames to traverse its treacherous depths, basically. So that's kind of like the narrative setting for it, but let's dive into the actual experiential standpoint, which we see here already. So the Kurast Undercity is an intense multi-floor time attack dungeon where players will be racing against an aggressive countdown timer to reach the distant boss with as high rewards upgrade meter built up as possible and try not to let that timer expire. So fun little novel wrinkle here is that killing certain monsters we refer to as afflicted will give you time bonuses to extend your time in the Undercity. And just killing monsters in general and completing dungeon activities will build up this reward upgrade meter referred to in-game as attunement. As far as the Undercity's role, it's one new novel leveling content, but its power really comes into the fact that it's brand new opportunistic content that allows players to make very efficient, very specific progress towards rewards goals as the opportunities arise. I'll dive deeper into that in the next few slides, but for now, just want to kind of set the stage that the Undercity does not necessarily have any objective aside from get to the boss, beat the clock, and do so with the highest amount of rewards upgrades built up as possible. How the players go about doing that is entirely up to them, because this is, again, a dungeon that celebrates autonomy, flow, and variety.
And this is a good example we were talking about earlier. When we're looking at the new modes that we have, we want that player agency to come back to the player. Yeah. Play your way. And I think this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into the next slide here. Cool. So I mentioned opportunistic content. And this is where the Undercity's primary role in the reward structure is. So we have dungeon keys that grant you access to dungeons. The Undercity's version of a dungeon key is in the form of tributes. So you can hop into an Undercity run without a tribute, just do the thing, the base run. But when you start applying tributes, this is where we allow you to define the specific reward upgrade opportunities of your next Undercity run at the cost of increasing the run's challenge. So you can see an example of a tribute here. This is the Tribute of Radiance. And when you slot this in, so long as you complete your Undercity run with at least achievement rank 1,
みたいなものかな?
we will guarantee that you get ancestral legendaries at the end. We'll dive a little bit deeper into some of the nuances. You can see that it has dungeon affixes that define a specific challenge. So the higher and more powerful the tribute, the tougher the challenge is in the form of, lower starting time, time bonus penalties, and potion drop penalties. But the fun doesn't stop there. In fact, we're just getting started. Once you apply a tribute, you now unlock the ability to define a bargain. Each tribute has a list of bargains mapped to it. So this tribute of Radiance has a collection of them. We're just picking out a couple that seem pretty fun to show off. And bargains allow you to further customize your rewards at a varying material cost. So we have one here, skill ranks, legendary armors will always possess at least one skill rank affix for X amount of gold here, and then the passive ranks, which you'll see a little bit more later, the legendary amulets will always possess at least one passive rank affix. So let's go into the next slide just to, again, recap the full flow. And we're going to see a video of all this to let it all kind of like soak in and see like the full flow of the Undercity. So we have the front end experience where you interact with the Spirit Brazier. You can jump directly into your district run, or you can optionally apply a tribute and then a bargain to specify the rewards opportunity of your next run. So let's go see this in action. So this is the hub of the Undercity, and that's the Spirit Brazier that I was mentioning. You can see that we have the base, the base run rules. Starting time, no time bonus penalties, no potion drop penalties. And we have the opportunity to apply a tribute. We have 4 tributes here, so we'll show these in a still shot later, so you don't have to worry about what does it say. But we have 4 tributes here that range from magic all the way to unique to accommodate your leveling journeys. So for now, we applied the legendary tribute that'll guarantee ancestral uniques at the end of your run. And again, this is the list of potential bargains that I mentioned that each tribute has. Each tribute has varying quantities of bargains attached to it. So we're going to pick the passive rank legendary amulets for the low price of 50 million gold. The Spirit Flame services don't come cheap, but they're worth it. So we got the portal open, and we're going to hop into the run. We're going to have this play a couple times. First, I just want to point out the HUD, because this is really kind of your guide through the experience. So you can see at the top, once we exited that Spirit Aura, the timer starts, and that's a nice little timer at the top right-hand corner of your screen. We also display the number of floors that you have left to traverse. Very key information right there. To the right-hand side of the objective tracker, we have the achievement meter, and it's segmented into 4 ranks. Again, as I mentioned, achieving rank 1 is the bare minimum requirement necessary to get the value of the tribute that you slotted in. All subsequent ranks further enhance the value of that reward. So while you certainly want to strive to get attunement rank 4 to maximize your payout, it's not necessary if you're feeling the pinch of the time pressure. That if you at least get attunement rank 1, you can run it to the boss room and still come away with the thing that you're looking for. Going to point out a couple things here. You might have seen, let's do the Spirit Beacon. So the Spirit Beacon is one of our activity types, and completing it both gives you attunement, a good splash of attunement, and it applies a momentary spirit buff that increases your movement speed and reduces your, the skill cooldowns. Again, you got to move fast in the Undercity, so these Spirit Beacons are incredibly useful for getting you to the next location, whether it's another Spirit Beacon or the exit. We're also kind of showing here the Lesser Afflicted. As you can see, they're clearly marked in the game world. They're all, orangey glowy, so you can keep your focus on the combat. And killing them is what gives you the time bonuses to extend your run. I think that's kind of the long and short of the Undercity run. Again, this is an example of floor 1. There's still 2 more floors to traverse to get to the boss room. But yeah, let's hop up. There we go. We're into the boss room. So in this case, we have finished all 3 floors and we made it to the boss room. One thing you'll notice that time expiration, it stops. Time drain stops in the boss room. So you just need to make it to the boss room before that timer hits 0. This is Aaliyah, one of our 3 district bosses. And it's important to call out that there are 3 total districts to explore in the Undercity. Again, that's kind of tapping into the variety aspect of things. So Aaliyah is, again, just one of 3 henchmen that own the various districts. So in this case, we're at the tail end of this fight. We just, killed Aaliyah, and we see that we ended this run with a full reward upgrade of 4. So now we're going to get the best possible payout for this. And we came in here looking for ancestral legendaries, and as the Spirit Flames promised, ancestral legendaries is what we get. And, the greater affixes. And we also see that we got an amulet. If we were to dive into the amulet, we would have seen that the bargain would have applied to it as well. So the player would have gotten specifically what they came in here for. So that's a really quick snapshot of just the structure of an Undercity flow. I want to take this time just to dive into a little bit more details on the tributes that we saw in the gameplay footage and spend a little bit more time with them. So this is an example of 4 of our 8 total tributes. These are hand-selected primarily just to showcase how the tributes are tuned to progress with your leveling journeys. So we start off here with the tribute of growth. This is usable in all difficulty levels. This is the tribute that rewards additional experience when you complete the Undercity. So this is great, for leveling up your alts, leveling up your character in general. And you can see here that we start applying the first of the, penalties or challenges for this, in the sense that we have lower starting time. We actually incur a time bonus penalty now, and we have potion drop penalties. Something also to note is, this is just found randomly in Sanctuary, so as you're just doing your standard leveling stuff, like the Hell Tides or whatever, you will get these types of tributes to say, point you to the Undercity every now and again. So let's go back to the tribute gallery, as I like to call it.
Can we go back to that last slide that we had up there? There we go.
Yeah. Cool. All right, cool, thank you. And then we get to, from there, it just gets progressively more challenging, but also progressively more rewarding for the players. So Tribute of Harmony rewards guaranteed runes. This is a torment tier difficulty. And you can see, we just amp up the challenge with each one. The Tribute of Radiance is the one that we just saw in action, that we guaranteed ancestral legendaries. And the Tribute of Ascendance is an example of kind of like the cream of the crop tribute. Unique tribute that guarantees several uniques with an increased chance of a mythic unique. And I just want to call it out here that I know that the last 2 tributes say that, they're resolute tributes and they only, apply rewards to the player that offered it. We do have variants of both of these that work in party. So that, whole is covered. The rest of the tributes that don't have that distinction, they reward everyone in the party. It's just these last 2 that, kind of had that little, asterisk on it. I think that's the gallery of the tributes. And again, these are mapped to the rest of them are mapped to a variety of content like the whisper caches, the summoned way bosses, and a variety of things.
タイムアタックした上で、ボスの間に進んでボスを倒すと宝箱があって、で宝箱を開けると、その証ですか、証に書かれているその確定で落ちる報酬が入手できると。
Yeah, and I think the big thing here is you can do it solo or you can do it with a group. So it's not like you have other options if you want to bring in a full player.
ソロでもできるし、チームでもできるし、ということですね。
Like, hey, 50 million for all that. There are. I'm not sure if you guys saw all the different bargains and everything. There's a plethora of different costs for a lot of different options. And depending on what you're looking for, you can obviously target specific things. You may specifically want, uniques or something like that, and that like chaotic uniques I think had like an obol requirement or whatever. So there's a lot of different bargain options for players to get. And if you are looking for specific rewards, you have an additional avenue to do so, which is really cool with Undercity.
De shou ne.
Awesome. Cool. Well, there we go. That's
I think there's more, actually. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Kurast Undercity is the gift that keeps on giving. So one additional activity that you'll discover as you're romping through the Undercity is our Undercity unique treasure goblin, the Portal Prankster. We'll show some gameplay footage in just a moment, but first I just want to call out killing him will reward a bonus chest at the end of the dungeon. And in addition,
このトレゴブを倒すと、このステージの一番最後で、ボーナス宝箱が入手できると。
But you would be doing so at your own peril because you'll see in this video that he has a particular mechanic to him that makes it a little bit tricky when you have a continually timer that's continually counting down. So you'll see here that when he's aggroed, he opens up a bunch of portals and just like Benny Hills through them. It's a chase. So this is kind of tapping into the risk versus reward nature of the Undercity, where you make decisions based on how confident you are at the current state of your run.
残り時間と相談しながら倒すか先進むか考えないといけないということですね。
Again, a variety of the spice of life in the Undercity, and really excited to get this into the hands of players.
Yeah, it's cool to see a new Goblin variant right there, and then of course, you know,
新しいゴブリンのバリエーションを見ることができてよかったよ。
Like, do you spend the time and chasing after this specific goblin as it's bouncing between different portals as your time is ticking down and you're trying to progress and get better rewards. And of course, if you succeed and you get everything, you get that extra chest at the end, which is really awesome.
Yeah,
so
it's worth it.
Yeah, most definitely is worth it, especially since you get so much progress added once you do actually take down the goblin as well. So thank you, Derek, for walking us through this. We have a bunch of seats here. We actually have a physical seat here because we do actually have one other person that we're going to be tapping into to talk to us about the Dark Citadel, and this is Mr. Jason Bentley, who is live via satellite. That's what I'm going to say, satellite from the East Coast. Jason is our lead raid designer on Dark Citadel.
ニューヨークかな？ニューヨークってかアルバニーかな？
Talk to us a little bit about it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. As you heard, I'm the lead for the Dark Citadel, and we're going to talk about Rise of the Khazra. This is the very first multiplayer-focused piece of content for Diablo IV.
Hi.
So, as you can kind of guess, this whole thing's about essence and souls and sealing them and owning them and just using it as power. So why are we here? We're here to fight the first Khazra. They are taking over the crater left from the Mage Clan Civil War, blasted a hole into the ground, and they've moved in, and they're using all the souls from the dead Mage Clan people to power their crazy experiments. They're really, really evil. They are taking people, they take their own kind, and they turn them into like power sources and batteries, and they use them, and they're all about resurrecting their dead god Zagral. This all takes place starts in Nahantu. You start out the whole quest line in Kurast. People are going to tell you how bad this is. They really don't like having their friends and family stolen and taken and drained and having Hus returned. So you're going to go on a quest to go find out what's happened to these people and see if you can go help. A lot of other heroes have actually tried this, and they have all failed. So really, when you get through this entire experience, what you really come back with is only together can we prevail. We need to bring some friends with you to come to this content. You're not going to be able to do it on your own. Once you get through all of this, this actually only happens at Torment 1. So this is not a early leveling experience. This is something when you're really into the game and you really need to like move your build along. So once you enter Torment 1, you can go on this quest and access the Ancient Nexus, which is its own town space with a waypoint of all of its own, which gives access to the 3 dungeons you can see here. These dungeons have multiple boss fights in each one, and they each take a little bit of time to get through. Practice will help you optimize these runs. Experience will help you show expertise and shepherding other people to show them how to complete these mechanics. And communication is not required, but it definitely leads to better outcomes. There's a lot of new challenges and mechanics, and there's really no mercy for the hardcore players, so you have to be good too. as you can see right now, we've actually got one party split across 2 different realms, doing different mechanics and helping each other and coming back together to bring down the boss. It really takes at least 2 players to do these mechanics.
最低2人できれば4人でのプレイ推奨で。
Multiplayer boss fights are through the entire experience, and we always say that players are stronger together. It's tuned for 4 players. 2 players can do these mechanics, but it means you have to handle the mechanics and the monsters and the bosses by yourselves. We're not going to duck the difficulty for fewer players. Lots of crazy mechanics going on.
一応4人プレイを想定して難易度設定をしているので、それより少ない人数でのプレイはあまり想定していないと。
The switch, or they res their friend right in time to jump through the portal or kill the boss, and everyone's just screaming and having a great time. It's really, really fun to work together.
暗黒の城塞でしたっけ？名前が出てこない。
Your party members really pays off. We also have an exclusive monster family for the
はい、カズラの
These are the newest, smartest monsters you have met. These are the first Kazura. They're pretty evil people. Shout out to the first Kazura Monster Family team. They did a great job on all of these guys. They are awful. They're decadent. They're sophisticated. They use a lot of magic. They do a lot of crazy things to like bring down the party.
なんかカズラに見えないな。そうです、トモアイドさん、噂の協力ダンジョンですね。はい。
I know with at least Dark Citadel, of course, there's always awesome rewards that are kind of associated with this. Jason, do you want to talk to us a little bit about those?
Absolutely.
I think we have that queued up. Yeah, let's see if we can get that queued up here. The joys of
Well, we do have.
We did it.
Oh, actually, the quick quality of life improvements here. We actually have a marker system to help parties get through the experience. You can just drop them
パーティー間でコミュニケーションをするためのマーク
indicate to your friends and party members, hey, I found something of interest, or hey, it's over here. This is the way forward. And then a really nice thing is this is available outside the Citadel as well. It's not exclusive.
別に暗黒の城塞の中でなくても機能するよということですね。
To help you understand what's happening, especially where you're taking damage from and big moments. And you've heard about the Party Finder. That's also created with obviously Citadel
単純に四角、丸、三角などのマーカーであって、特にそれぞれに意味があるわけではないようですね。
Well, before we jump into that, I do want to make mention because that was a really interesting screen to see the communication stuff and talking about Party Finder.
要はチャットを使わずにコミュニケーションするための手段みたいなもんなんでしょう。
And so we wanted to make sure that we did a couple of things. First off, we wanted endgame content for them, right? That's what this is all about, is making sure that we have that really aspirational endgame content for folks who like to play with their friends. The other thing is that we know that we could let this spread out into more segments of the game. And so the Party Fighter was originally a discussion that we had for how to support the Dark Citadel, but it is now benefiting all the other activities in our game as well. So for those of you who experience, you're seeing the early stages of us really expanding,
この暗黒の城塞のために設計されたものながら、暗黒の城塞の外にも機能するように、機能するようなそういうツールとして、ツールになったということのようですね。
Now we'll talk Sorry, I had to get that in there.
Absolutely. So you're actually chasing a weekly reward that resets on the Tuesday or the day of the week that we set.
毎週毎週
really, that's going to drop a massive ancestral loot drop each time you pop that open, which only happens when you complete all 3 dungeons. You're going to want to chase that thing. That is a huge, important drop for a week. But beyond that, there's lots of rewards for repeated runs.
1週間に1回、毎週ゲットできる報酬ですね、これが。
Treasury monsters and playing on higher difficulties. Like, it really scales up the Citadel coins you get. And why do you care about those? Well, these rewards these consumables really make it easier and more fun to play with groups and parties. But it also allows purchase of the scroll of restoration.
なんか今日イレギュラー多いな。
Want to like just chase down and buy scrolls? This is a great place to do that.
Sick slide for production right
there. We're doing this live, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's actually really cool to see. And again, the Scroll of Restoration being a reward in Dark Citadel. And like what we talked about earlier, you actually do get 2 guaranteed ones in the season journey. And at the same time, those are something that you can find all around the world. But Dark Citadel is like also just like that guaranteed way of being able to get it as well. So there's a lot of different variety of rewards. But it goes beyond what we just showed right there. There's actually some really, really cool stuff as well that I know Jason wants to show off us.
Absolutely. I would love to end up on just the way everyone can show off their ability to just play this content to the top levels. So we're going to show you our premier gear. There's actually 2 levels of gear that you can get from playing the Dark Citadel.
はい、暗黒の城塞をクリアすることによって得られる報酬の一つ、まあコスメティックですね。
What we're seeing right now is our premier content, which comes from only completions in Torment 4. So, I hope this is as exciting for everyone to get as I'm excited to give it to you. So, I'll see you in the Citadel, and thank you for letting me show this off.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. To this mount.
That mount.
Go back to the mount. Go back to the mount. I know you were probably like, oh, we got to scroll through everything. Okay, there we go. Got it. The mount is sick. Oh, see. Scroll through. There we go.
Do it live.
Okay, yeah, the mount is sick. That's something that I think a lot of people
いいですね、この猫用の装甲と旗と。
Jason, thank you so much for walking us through that. Really excited for it. And what's cool is, like, as Jason mentioned, Dark Citadel itself, like, you can do it with a group of 4. You can even attempt to go for 2 people. If you're really skilled, you have that option of being able to do it. The Party Finder feature now being part of the game now. You can actually access Party Finder, find other people that may want to jump into Dark Citadel and group up with them. And of course, we have the additional communication tools with all the different pings that you can end up using and markers that you can end up using to help kind of guide that whole entire group there. So lots of cool stuff coming with Dark Citadel, really cool endgame content that's coming to Vessel of Hatred, and we can't wait to see people jump into it. Can't wait to jump into it myself. But of course, we have one last topic that we do want to talk about with Vessel of Hatred, and that is our Mercenaries feature. That is something that we did announce during Gamescom, but we do want to go into a little bit of a deeper dive today on that specifically. So Brent, Dan, do you guys want to take us through Mercenaries?
Yeah, just to kick it off, Mercenaries is one of those legacy features that you've seen in multiple
海藤優さん、DLC の特典以外にも地上の猫が出るのかなと。はい、豹とか、黒豹とか、いくつか、種類があったと思います。虎もあったし、ライオンもあったような気がします。はい、これは、データ解析で、はい、明らかになってます。ただそれぞれがどの段階で、解放されるのかっていうのは残念ながら分かりませんけれども。
As you play along the game, like you're interacting with them in way different ways than you would just by leveling up and using them basically as a power item, right? And so the way that we folded this in is far more robust than we've seen in other systems in the past. And yeah, I can't wait for Dan to show it off.
Awesome, yeah, let's dive into it. So I think we can go to the first slide. Awesome. So we announced these characters at Gamescom, and these are the 4 mercenaries that you're going to meet as you play Vessel of Hatred. Early on in the campaign, you're going to meet Rahir, the guy in the middle, and you're going to lend him a hand in kind of tracking down these other characters, doing their quest lines, and unlocking them. And they're like really involved quest lines. They're pretty awesome. They have cutscenes. They have you know, a lot of narrative
そもそも傭兵って雇用するもんですけれども、
and they have a lot of personality, so they're pretty interesting.
お金払って雇用するわけではないみたいなので、
they don't just sit in the hideout the whole time when you're running around, and you might see an event where
はい、
they're actually
隠れ家があっ
participating in the
て、
event.
そこに常にこの4人がいるわけですね。
Unlock them. Cool. So today I'm going to cover a little bit more detail than what we announced at Gamescom. I'm going to talk about playstyle and perk for each mercenary. I'm going to talk about reinforcements, which is a new way to interact with mercenaries. And then we're going to talk about bartering and progression at the end.
Bartering.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the playstyles for each mercenary. And to start, I want to just show an example of a skill tree. So every skill tree for a mercenary, at the very top, the starting node is their perk. And this is a passive bonus you get whenever a mercenary is hired into your party. And they're pretty awesome. They're really powerful. Hopefully when you hire a merc, you feel like they're changing the way you play. And then every skill tree has 6 skills and 12 upgrades. So let's dive into some examples. So for Rahir, he's really like the tank if you need someone to help protect you. And his skill tree is kind of split up into a tower shield, which is about getting in the thick of battle, tanking things for you, taunting. And he also has a round shield, which is sort of themed around being a holy protector. So the top node that you start with for Rahir, and this is when you hire him to your party, is Valiance. And what this does is basically if you take a lot of damage in one hit, he's going to fly in, negate that damage, block it for you, and he's going to knock down enemies. He's also going to grant you Unstoppable, so he can really save your life. So here's an example where this beast is going to hit me, and these guys hit pretty hard. So here comes, boom. So Rahir kind of leapt in, he negated that damage, and he knocked him down. So that's awesome. I imagine hardcore players will gravitate towards this unless they are risk takers. So
プレイヤーの盾になってくれるので、ハードコアなんかで有効かもしれないっていう話ですね。
Ahead a slide if we want to go back one. There we go. Cool. So here's some upgrade examples on Rahir's skill tree. The first one, Draw Fire. We're going to show a video in a second. Whenever I use a healing potion, Rahir's going to taunt enemies near him. So if you're in danger, you need health, it's going to help save you. Iron Wolf's Virtue, when Rahir's Valiance is triggered, he heals you and his cooldown's reduced, so you can just get it to happen more often. And he has a shield throw, which some D3 Crusader players might love, where he chucks his shield, it bounces off some targets, and this kind of marks them, so you can sort of play whack-a-mole, and if you hit those targets, you'll get healed back. So another way to keep yourself alive. All right, cool. Let's check out an example for Draw Fire. So you're going to see I use my potion. The UI will help you show it, but yeah, use potion right there. Rahir taunted everybody. Sweet. I did not die, and I'm happy.
傭兵が敵を引きつけてくれるという、そういうスキルですね。
So Varyana, we call her the Berserker Crone. She is a reformed cannibal. She's got a pretty interesting backstory. I love her personality. She's kind of zany and crazy. She's also the cook for the mercenaries, and I don't know if I would eat her food. I don't really trust her. But her skill tree's kind of split up into 2 themes: dual wield axes, which is all about visceral cleaves and bleeds, and large mace, which is heavy slams. So you may be familiar with the Massacre bonus from D3. Her perk is very similar, where basically you get this bonus. We could jump to the video. And as you kill monsters, you're going to see when I get 10 kills, the Massacre bonus kicks in. It's going to show up above her portrait on the left side of the screen.
マサカーボーナス、Diablo III であったやつですね。敵を一定時間内に連続して倒すと蓄積していくボーナスですね。
So you can embrace your inner Sanic and go real fast with Varyana as your hired merc. All right, I got some upgrades for Varyana. So dismembering is, oh yeah, sorry. So this one, it's going to guarantee an overpower. She's going to knock people down, and you get a guaranteed overpower. So if you're playing Bard, that's going to be really useful. Reprisal is when you get CC'd, Varyana's going to leap on the enemy that inflicted it and knock them down. So this can also save your life. And No Escape is Varyana does Whirlwind. This makes it really big, and as she's spinning around, she's kind of grouping enemies up for you. So that can be a fun one. I think we showed both. So yeah, dismembering here. So she's going to set us up. We get a guaranteed overpower. You do a bunch of damage. Sweet. That feeds into, a lot of builds. And then we have reprisal here. So I got chained by that monster. She leapt on them, knocked them down, basically
で、ワールウィンドで、違う。出ない。
Subo the Bounty Hunter. He's themed on longbows, which is precision shooting and traps. The other side of his tree is crossbows, heavy bolts, and explosives. And his perk is kind of broken up into two parts. So he has a passive component, which is he reveals enemies and materials on the mini-map. And his active component is that we call him the Bounty Hunter because he's going to call out targets during combat. And if you kill that target, you get a bunch of resource back. And also, the more you do that, the more often he's going to be casting Seeker. So you're kind of keep trying to keep this up where you want to make sure you're killing his targets and spending your resource before you do so. And this lets you just cast more abilities, which always feels great. All right, let's check out an example. So I'm in town. I'm going to walk out here with Subo. And you can look at the mini-map, top right, and it's starting to populate with herbs and ore veins, and you'll see all the monsters on the mini-map as well. So that's kind of his scouting component. And
見えるんですね。ここのミニマップのところに敵の位置が、敵の数と位置が全部見えるようになるという、そういう能力があるみたいです。
Yeah, I know a lot of people with Subo, especially because the fact that he highlights like ore veins and things like that are pretty huge for people, especially with all the changes that we're adding to like how materials can also be used to maybe craft like legendaries and stuff. So Subo is kind of like my personal favorite, but yeah.
It definitely embraces, I think, what Brent was talking about too, where mercenaries are really about utility, and they kind of add choices that maybe you wouldn't necessarily pick on your character, or they help you just kind of like fill gaps in your build, or maybe encourage you to do, have more diversity in your build. Maybe they expose new options for you. So it's pretty interesting. All right, cool. We're going to show off some Subo upgrades. So first we have Share a Drink, which is whenever he throws his Molotov, there's a chance for him to drop a healing potion for you. Mastermind, Subo's Wire Trap and Trip Mines gain 60% size. And then you and Subo both have increased crowd control duration. Thrill Seeker is going to reduce cooldowns for every monster hit. So here's an example of Share a Drink. He threw a Molotov, he dropped a potion for me, and that can just help you more consistently get potions, which could definitely be useful for a lot of players.
クールダウンが減ってくってことかな?
This is definitely a fan favorite. We call him the Forsaken Child. His tree is sort of split up into two magic types, Fire Magic, which is all about burning enemies and making them suffer, and Shadow Magic, which is haunting souls that kind of like apply dots and spread to enemies. His perk is dependent on what your skill tree choices are. So if you're on the fire side of the tree or the shadow, you will get different buffs and debuffs. So every once in a while, he's going to turn into a demon in one of those forms. If he's on the shadow side, you and all the enemies around him become vulnerable. If he's on the fire side, he's going to make it so all your direct damage applies burn to enemies, but it's also draining your resource. So he's really themed around this Kiss Curse mechanic, and whenever this happens, it can be a huge benefit, but also there's some downsides to it, potentially. All right, cool. So he's casting some fire skills. We're going to see Altkin on the left. He's turning into a fire demon. This gives him a whole new skill set. He's got Immolation. He's burning nearby enemies, and he's helping kill everything. And then you can see when I'm doing direct damage, it's applying burn, but also my resources draining. This is if I'm on the shadow side. He turned into a shadow demon at the top. He's going to do a cool ability where he pulls everyone into a line, lines them up for you. That always feels really good. And yeah, in that one, he's making everyone vulnerable. Sweet, let's talk about some upgrades for Aldkin. So I think this will be a lot of people's favorites. Ember's Gift, whenever he casts Firestorm, if you stand in it, you're getting 33% of your primary resource per second. And we're going to show a video of that in a sec. Terrify, he does Haunt. Yeah, thank you. He's got 30% chance to apply invulnerable to enemies, so another way to get keywords applied to things. And Burning Chaos, that's his ult. Whenever you cast your ult, it resets his. Wave of Flame is really cool. It's this giant fire wave that destroys enemy projectiles. You can kind of like run with it and fight inside of it, and I've seen a lot of people get use out of that. Cool, okay, let's check out Ember's Gift. So he's going to cast Firestorm, and look at my resource just flying up really fast while I'm standing in this area. So it's a good way to kind of have this happen, and then you just get to spam a bunch of abilities. Murder monsters. So yeah, here's a quick example of, we do have a lot of keywords and ways for mercenaries to utilize them and spread them to enemies, so that can help with a lot of builds too.
Yeah, it's nice having a an option to like add vulnerable to more enemies, especially like AoE, doing AoE or anything like that. So yeah, really cool to see. I know.
脆弱ダメージですね。脆弱ダメージをばらまく手段の一つになるそうですけれども、もうちょっと見たかったかな。
Yeah, let's talk about reinforcements. So I guess before I explain reinforcements, there are two methods of using mercenaries. One is hiring them, and that's for solo players. So if you're playing solo, you're not in a party, you can hire a mercenary. Everyone at all times can also have a reinforcement. So if you're in a party, everyone has a reinforcement. If you're solo, you get both. And if you're playing solo, they have to be two different characters. So your hired mercenary has to be different from your reinforcement.
プレイするときは、常に同行者が1人いて、さらに、この増援を呼ぶことができると。特定の条件下で、増援を呼ぶことができると。まあ、一瞬だけ、戦闘に参加して、で、その後すぐに退いていくっていう、そういう感じですね。で、パーティープレイするときは、同行者がいなくて、この増援ですね、だけが、
So you're going to choose an opportunity, which is when does it happen? You can link this to any of your action bar slots. So you could say, hey, when I press 1 and I teleport, the mercenary does this skill. And then you choose a skill that you have unlocked for that mercenary. All right, let's check out some examples. So this one's quick. I'm going to cast teleport, and you'll see here appear. And then he sort of flies in battle. He does this triple slam. He groups everyone up. Grouping enemies up is always good.
で、敵をまとめてくれて、まとめたらさっそうと帰っていくということですね。
There's going to be a lot of combinations here, I think, with all the different player abilities and all the different reinforcement
これもルーンワードと似たような感じで、発動条件と発動効果とその組み合わせみたいな感じになってますね。
Another thing I'm excited about that is that the system is built to grow. And so our ability to add more conditions in which you bring them in and continue to grow potentially the powers that we can see too. It's a very robust system that can go a pretty long way. So it's great.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. And I think finally we want to talk about some bartering.
Yeah, we're going to talk about rapport, which is the progression, and then bartering, but they're all, it's all tied together. It's all one unit. We're good. Yeah, so rapport is the progression for mercenaries. And so this is what the rapport looks like. You may be familiar with this type of UI. In this example, we're rank 5. The first 4 skill ranks are how you get your skill points for the skill tree. We want you to unlock all the cool, fun abilities for mercs pretty quickly and up front. After that point, it's all about upgrades for bartering. And bartering is, we're going to show it off in a second. But progressing your mercs improves the bartering system, which is kind of a way to trade with mercenaries at the hideout and get really useful items. So the very last rank, we hovered over it quickly there, you can actually repeat the very last rank for mercenaries and continue to earn the currency. So if you say, hey, I really like Altkin, I don't want to level anyone else up, you could just keep playing this character and you'll keep getting resources. Hopefully we're encouraging you though with these upgrades to kind of rank up all your mercs and keep making bartering better.
これはこの隠れ家で傭兵の隠れ家で使う通貨ですね。バーター。
where you can trade for items. A lot of them are legendaries, and as you upgrade your mercs, you're gonna basically increase this list so you can find more interesting things. Hopefully you can find some really cool legendary items that you're excited about. As you upgrade your mercs, you're gonna get more chances for legendaries. And each mercenary has an aspect category associated with them. So Oldkin, for example, gives you resource aspect caches. So if you level up Oldkin, that has a chance. Instead of getting a resource legendary, you're going to get a resource legendary aspect cache. And in this case, we open one of those caches. Sweet, I got a bunch of items. It's not exactly target farming, but it's a way to increase your chances of things you may be looking for. There's going to be a lot of other really useful items in here, like crafting materials, boss summoning parts, some masterworking recipes, things like that. And that's about it. So you can restock the supply on this, and the currency you reroll this inventory with is the same currency that you're spending to buy items. So you kind of have to pick and choose, like, do I want to reroll or do I want to wait? And hopefully you see things that you're interested in, and you buy them. And then every day when you log in, you get one free reroll.
他の場所とどう差別化を図っているかがちょっと気になるところですけれども、まあおいおい分かってくるでしょう。
Yeah, I love hearing about the
海
bartering
藤優
system
さん、これ
because
は
it's
お
just
ボール
another
2だ
like
な。
avenue for like, hey, if I need masterwork materials,
まあ
or if
言い
I
得
need
てみよう
Boston
かもしれま
materials,
せ
I
ん
can
ね。
literally
は
go
い。
and check and see if I can barter for it now as another opportunity for getting those specific things, which is really, really cool to see. So, Dan, thank you very much for walking us through the Mercenaries coming to Vessel of Hatred. And so everything that this group actually talked about here, this is all exclusive to Vessel of Hatred.
ちなみ
So
に
with the expansion and anyone who actually ends
傭
up
兵
purchasing
は
the expansion, they'll be able to access all the different
拡張
features that we talked
版
about.
の
From
機能の一
Spiritborn
つ
to
です
Kurast
と。
Undercity to Dark Citadel and of course the Mercenaries.
で、
So
傭兵
lots of
は
stuff in the expansion specifically for this.
アイテムを装備できないという点は
that we're all excited for everyone to jump into.
注意してください。
October 7th, 4 p.m. Pacific in California. Globally, wherever your time zone is, that it's tied to that is when it will end up hitting. So, and we have a cool map. But I know we talked about a lot today. We do want to, of course, do our normal Q&A that we always do at the end. But before we actually end up doing that, I know, Brent, you wanted to talk a little bit about the journey here.
Yeah, honestly, you know, we talk at the team level a lot about our communication with the community at this point. And I've said it a few times where it's like, it feels so good to be in a dialogue now. And everybody at home, you've heard us say, we're listening. I actually feel like we're well beyond that point at this moment. Like, we really feel like the community is now one of our team members. And we're developing together at this point. And we're starting to all pull in the same direction.
何かにつけて我々は私は皆さんの意見を聞いてるよって言ってるけれども、実際にここまでプロジェクト持ってきてみて、もう本当にプレイヤーフィードバックくれるプレイヤーがもう開発チームの一員のように感じられる。皆さんがなければここまで持ってくることはできなかったよ。
Yeah, and again, like just to reiterate, like what Brent was saying, I think the community is speaking about how they really wanted us to have a PTR, having those PTR moments, having players in earlier, being able to provide that feedback. Huge shout out to you guys for being able to help us out with this journey that we've been on. You know, we've made some massive strides since the first season, and it's only getting better from here, which is really cool. So awesome. Well, I think we're going to jump into the Q&A. We're actually going to bring some people in from before, swap people out, do the musical chair thing again.
はい、また人の入れ替えがあるので、Q&A に入る前に、ちょっとブレイクを入れますっていうことですね。
We'll try to get to as many questions as possible. So we'll see you in a minute.
はい。ということで、次は Q&A、いよいよ最後の Q&A ですね。過去最長ですね。はい。いやーまあここまで聞いてみて2時間今日過去最長ですねの配信になってますけれども公式配信になってますけれども結構まだわからないこと判明してないことあるんですよね。 この曲500円出してもいいからトラック欲しいですね。なんなら象の器のサントラ出るんだったら3000円なりなんなりで買ったっていいくらいですね。このクオリティだったら3000円なり4000円なりで。いや皆さんどうですか？眠くなってないですか？大丈夫ですか？トムハイドさん大丈夫です。ちょうど D3 のリフトを更新したところです。おー素晴らしい。おいや違うなまだですねこれは。これは何だろう。アンリアルエンジンとかかな。さあどうだろう。
All right, we're back for Q&A. Welcome back, everyone.
ナヤさん、おはようございます。
Everyone's like, all right, come on.
It's been a long stream.
Yeah, it's been a long stream. Holy cow.
海藤優さん、自分もモリーニョさんがやってて楽しそうだったからハードコア始めてしまった。おー、素晴らしい。トモハイドさん、また謎のテクノ、ちょいちょい映像と BGM を合わせるのやめてもろて。海藤優さん、サントラはディアブロ公式の YouTube に以前のは全部上がってたような気がするということですね。一部は私も把握してるんですけれども、ちょっと探してみますね、私も。
If you only have Diablo IV, they just like shunned off to some island or something like that.
How
And
will
that is not the case. You can still play
crossplay
with
work
friends
for those playing
who
with
may only
and
have the base
without
game, even if they're on Xbox and your
いきなり
PC or
私が先ほど言ってた
PlayStation,
疑問が
etc., etc.
出てきました
There
ね。
is that option. What's also kind of cool
拡張
is
版
an interaction that I
持
know
ってる人
that
と持ってない
let's say you
人
owned it on PC
との間のクロスプレイはどうなるの
for Vessel of Hatred, but then the base game was only on Xbox for your own personal Xbox, and you jump back over to your Xbox. If you have like Runewords on your Sorc, for instance, you still can actually use those Runewords.
Still.
Yeah, so it's still something that's going to be there. I know that one of the things that the team was looking at was like, hey, if you earned it in the other game, you can still use it. So it's more so the things within Vessel of Hatred, like Spiritborn or the region of Nahantu, those things just wouldn't be available for that base game user, or if you jumped over onto the base game. So
yeah, that's also why we gave everyone the 10 levels. We want everyone to be able to play with each other. Everyone is going to be able to be at the same eye power, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so it's a cool little like extra thing for people, and I know it does clarify a lot specifically on that. This was probably the biggest thing that people asked about during PTR, and so Brent, this is from Razzle Dazzle Darius. This is actually from a lot of people. Speaking of D2, I'm wearing my D2 jacket. Will we get the D4 campfire screen back?
So we were talking about it during the interstitial just a little bit. Yeah, I think if we could feel a vibe through a monitor, like that was the moment that that came through. You know, we hear it loud and clear. One of the things that we are doing is trying to set ourselves up for success for adding more classes to the mix. And so the campfire is one of those things where we're taking a look at it and trying to figure out how that would work. And so we updated it where we are kind of like really in, and you don't get that initial setup. So that is something that like immediately when the feedback started coming through, the team started to mobilize and talk about what we can do. Turning it around in time fast enough for like Vessel of Hatred was, we had other things like balance and polish that we really wanted to pay attention to, make sure some of the UI elements for some of the new features were in a good spot. So we hear you. I love the fact that the nostalgia means so much. And so the team is actively talking about it, and we'll be able to get back to you in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, that was
将来的にキャンプファイヤーのシーンを戻すことも検討していますと。
See like the flames kind of like in the screen, but where is like the full-on campfire?
Yeah.
We have a question from Ram0, which is, will there be more renown and statues of Lilith in this expansion? How does that specifically work?
Yeah, we're not going to be doing statues of Lilith specifically. We're going to be having a new statue type.
The Tenant of
Akarat, which is, it's not going to give you any points, but it is working towards renown. And so there's still a lot of discoverability in the zone, but we're shifting things to work more for renown.
なんだろう、祭壇みたいなものがナハントゥでは用意されてるよ。
The stats, we're just not giving stats for the Tenant of Akarat because we saw how frustrated players were with like having to do this sort of activity to get more powerful. So it's a lot more leaning into the collectible aspect.
Yeah, we didn't want these to feel like a chore that you needed to do in order to progress your player power. It's all about the discoverability, right?
Yeah.
In the new zone.
Yeah. And I will say that the other thing with renown specifically, like we made changes. Something we talked about during the PTR, but we kind of optimized it a little bit better because there was like Paragon points at the last tier of renown, and that's actually been like swapped back around now. So it's more of like the Obel upgrades are at the last tier.
It's easier to get that potent power from Paragon. We also just sort of reduced how much renown you need for a lot of these things. So if you missed out on renown when the game came out, it's a lot easier to get that power.
Yeah. It's good way for people, like especially friends who maybe are jumping into Diablo IV just to like kind of catch up specifically from that end. One thing this just dawned on me that I did want to also mention is that, you know, back in season 3, we introduced the Gauntlet, and that has, you know, the leaderboard mechanics and stuff like that. One thing I do want to actually do a quick call out on is like when season 6 starts and when Vessel of Hatred actually does ship, we do plan on actually sunsetting the Gauntlet and the leaderboard functionality there. Does that mean leaderboards are going away forever? No, that doesn't mean leaderboards are going away forever. We're actually looking at new ways of potentially finding a home for it.
Yeah, I'd rather say like leaderboards are bolted as we do a big reassessment on how that applies to the new progression we're looking at releasing with season 6. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity there, but again, we've made so much change. It's a time to take a deep breath and then take a look at the things that we really want to invest into.
Yeah, awesome. Almost forgot about that. I wanted to mention that. There's a question from Aviance, which is saying like, hey, how does Group Finder work? This was actually available during PTR, and I know not everyone got to experience PTR, but kind of like Party Finder itself, of course, you know, you can use it across multitudes of activities from Dark Citadel, beyond Dark Citadel, which is being introduced in Vessel of Hatred, but it is a feature that you can also use, or that allows you to actually use filters and different ways of searching for specific groups and people. So we do recommend jumping in, checking out the Party Finder. It's actually super, super awesome. And I know there's going to be improvements that will continuously be made to it.
Yeah, another system that we're trying to develop.
グループファインダーの話してますけれども、グループファインダーで一番怖いのは、トレードと一緒で過疎化すると、なかなかマッチングしてもらえないっていうところですよね。だからまあ、蓋を開けて様子見てみないと分かりませんけれども。
We have a question regarding opals and tributes that we kind of showed off. Tributes, of course, being part of Kurast Undercity, opals being part of the new season. This question was from PvE Sweat. Great name.
That should be a title.
Are these actually because I think the initial reaction is seeing some of these new consumables. So Tim, I think this would be a question for you. Like seeing these new consumables, are they actually like stackable in inventory? Like how?
Yeah. You can stack them in inventory. In fact, if you want, you have the option. You can go just farm the Realm Walker over and over again, get a whole bunch of the opals. And then just, okay, I'm going to play now for hours and hours with the buff active, if that's something you want to do. And tributes as well are stackable.
Awesome.
I did like the fact, too, I can't recall if we mentioned it, but you get 2 tributes with every drop.
Yes.
And so you don't...
Or, sorry, 2 opals.
2 opals, sorry, yeah. So you can, like, use one now and save one for later, and so you can really determine, like, you can actually stack these up for a longer play session later on if you wanted to play in the weekend and actually...
手の鍵アイテムをスタックできるかどうかですね。
There is a question regarding mercenaries. It's actually a question I've seen. Maybe it's a two-parter, but a lot of people are asking specifically, like, hey, how does the progression of mercenaries kind of carry over? Is it something that's across like the whole entire account, or is it like from season to season? How does that specifically work?
Yeah, so they're partition wide. So if you're playing in the season and you unlock the mercs and you progress a bunch of them and then you roll an alt, that progression is still there. But we do reset every season because it's a part of the power journey.
傭兵のステータスですけれども、
there's a lot of benefits to investing into them, especially if you're going to roll a second class.
シーズンごとにリセットはされますが、
this might be tied to some of the Runewords stuff that we showed, but this is
サブキャラ作った場合にはサブキャラに引き継がれるようです。
Spirit Wolves damage scaling work.
トモハイドさん、ちょうどやってるからですが、やはり D3 の影響を強く感じてますね。そうですね、シーズン5あたりからもう特に強くなってますね。色濃くなってますね。それと怪盗ユウさん、ガントレットは報酬良くすればみんなやるのに頑張っても、黄色が出てくると箱とかいらんもんと。
Precisely which ones it does. But that's definitely something that we're aware of and really want to make sure that we can deliver on that fantasy. And we'll be looking at making updates to minions and summons as a general matter going forward to really make sure that they're scaling with the right things that players expect to make those builds feel natural and synergistic as you would expect. So that's definitely an area of focus for us moving forward.
Yeah, we definitely have talked a lot about this. Like, it'd be cool if you could be a summoner barb with Call to Ancients and like having them deal bulkier damage. So that's something we definitely talk a lot about.
Yeah, we don't have any particular thing to announce or the exact initiative at this moment, but it's definitely on our radar and it's something we are actively working on and talking about all the time.
Awesome. I know that I am the Berm. Asked, this is back to Tim actually, because I think you had mentioned like, farming Realm Walkers, and they're going like, okay, so is it a world event? How often does it spawn? Like, what, like, do we have like specifics on that? We can help clarify on that specific question.
It is a world event, yeah, and it is really focused around just that boss. It's not a world boss exactly, it is a world event. Like was explained by Dawn earlier in the cast, You have to kind of follow him for a while before you're allowed to kill him. But it is something that you do with other people in the area. There's likely to be a bunch of other people helping you take down this boss. And then the Realm Walker itself does pop up in another location in Sanctuary pretty much right away. There's a slight break, but at any given time, we want the experience to be, I log in, I'm ready to go play, I see like, I don't have any opals, can I go get some? We want the answer to pretty much always be yes. Like there's always a Realm Walker up somewhere that you can go kill. So, I guess you can get slightly unlucky, like you just died, but you're not waiting more than a few minutes before another one's going to pop up and you can go kill that one. So if you want to chain farm them, you can.
Yeah, just run back to town, vendor some stuff. By the time you come back, it'll probably be at like, an ideal time to actually farm it. So it's actually really good to hear that it's just always available for players, or nearly always available for players. Question from Plucky Villain for Season 6 on live, like from a tuning and balance perspective,
ワールドボスとは違うけれども、一種のワールドイベントになっているということですね。ちょっと詳細、これも見てみないとわかんないかな。
Yeah, I'd say we will be surprised, but not surprised, I guess, to see people get to pit tier 100.
ナイヤさん、これ成功させないと本当人いなくなりそうだから、マジ頑張れ、開発陣。
We actually think that's really fun. Like there's a ton of new things to explore, a ton of new things to break. And we think that probably most people won't get to 100, but you might get a surprise if you go to 100 and go past it. We might have done something there.
Yeah, we talked quite a bit about where the deep end of the pool is, right? And so
it's
we're
around 80. Around 80, yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to seeing which kind of streamers out there actually push way past that so we could take a look.
Definitely.
Your Sparrow asks, if we complete the campaign in Eternal Realm, will we be able to skip it when we create a seasonal character?
Yes, as soon as you complete the campaign for the first time, you'll be able to skip it. Very similar to what we did in the base game.
Yeah, and I think there's actually like additional nuances that we've added with like Vessel of Hatred. Like for instance, if you are brand new to Diablo, of course we recommend you start from the base game and experience the campaign and that journey. But even if you are coming into Diablo 4 with Vessel of Hatred and you just want to start with Vessel of Hatred, you really just need to complete that prologue of the base game, and then you will then get that option, I believe, to skip the base campaign, and you can actually jump into the expansion campaign.
Yeah,
you actually don't even have to complete the prologue.
Oh, there we go.
So
there
you even took out that.
You're a liar, Adam. You're a liar.
And we've taken great care of you too. So like if you're new and you skip forward, when you go into Vessel of Hatred, we actually do recaps. So we'll catch you up on the story even if you decide to do it. So if your friends are all way ahead of you and you want to skip so that you can catch up, you're good.
Yeah,
right?
We got one of those like in the last episode of whatever.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's actually really cool to watch. So just in case if you're new.
There's another detail too, which is like once you play through the Vessel of Hatred story section, we want way more players to get into the end game. We notice that there's a lot of folks out there that once they get the big story beats done, it's not really clear on where to go from there. And so we created a custom quest that can actually bridge you out into the end game. So if you can continue following your golden baubles, that would be super good.
最初のキャンペーンですね。無印の方のキャンペーンをスキップすることはできるみたいですね。
I was like, what is no one can see it, obviously. They think we're psycho because we're like looking back.
The coolest view is behind this camera.
Production's like holding up the sign and stuff.
Everybody that makes us look good is back there. So thank you guys.
Yes, thank you very much. We're going to take, I guess, like one more specific question here. Let me see. This is actually a question regarding people that are running specifically in Dark Citadel. Like if someone leaves during Dark Citadel, like what happens to the group specifically? Can they all just leave? They're not like locked in there going like, oh gosh, I'm stuck in that type of situation. Or if I can conquer it with like maybe if it's 4 people and we drop to 3, like you can adapt and kind of work your way through it.
You can. Like we said, the game the Citadel is balanced for 4, but if that was to drop, as long long as you got 2 strong players still in the mix, you should be good to go. So, yes, it makes it more difficult. I'd have a firm conversation with the person who decided to drop in the middle of a fight.
暗黒の城塞ですけれども、4人で、プレイしているときに1人が離脱したりとか、サバ落ちしたりとか、したとしても継続してプレイすることは可能だよと。ただし、難易度はどうしても上がってしまうよと。
I guess before we kind of drop off, like Brent, I know you wanted to give a quick message out as well.
Yeah, you know, we saw this really cool piece of art that was made by one of our art directors on the team, and it just really reminded us that there are hundreds of people working on this game all of the time. And these live streams are for our community, but it's also for all the folks who have been working tirelessly over the last dozens of months on trying to make this a reality. And so we just want to say thank you to everybody that's putting the hard work in. We're still putting the hard work in today. Like, we're working all the way up through this. And so we love the team. We love you guys. Keep up the good work. And yeah, we'll see you on the other side of October 8th.
October 8th, yeah. Huge shout out to Team 3, Team Diablo. You guys kick ass.
Yeah.
Best team. We're super proud of everyone with the Vessel of Hatred and everything. And we're super excited for October 8th. There's a lot of stuff coming up. We have patch notes immediately after this stream.
はい、この配信の後、すぐ後にパッチノートが、パッチ 2.0.2 のパッチノートが来ます。
This is the most amount of people we've ever had on a live stream. So huge shout out to our production team and of course our community team, like with Mr. Filthy Rich back there, who organizes all these great. That's his handle, guys. who handles all these specific streams every single time. This is our 20th stream. It's crazy to see how everything has grown. Big reminders on Twitch drops. We have all the information on Diablo4.com. Twitch drops will actually start on October 8th. And if you're in the US, you can grab trolleys and grab more in-game stuff as I eat trolleys all day. And then another big thing that I do want to give a quick call out. In the coming days, you guys are actually going to hear about another cool partnership we're doing with Discord, which will offer up another opportunity for some cool in-game stuff. So, and we'll be talking about that here in the coming days. But thank you guys again for tuning in to our pre-launch stream. Lots of stuff to check out in the patch notes immediately after the stream. And again, a huge thanks to everyone here. We will see you guys October 8th in Nahantu. We're excited and we can't wait to jump into Vessel of Hatred.
10月8日にナハントゥで会いましょうと、はい、いうことですね。はい、皆さんお疲れ様です。永遠、まあ、前座も含めると3時間ですかね。3時間ちょっと、続けてた、ことになりますけれども、ちょっとだけ、ルーンワード絡みで、ディアブロ2の、画面をですね、今ちょっと出したいと思います。これをこうすればいいのかな？はい。今、ディアブロ2の画面出てますよね。デスクトップの音声を聞いて、はい。これで、ちょっといきます。ルーンワード、こんな感じのやつです。これ、神木の心、フォト、通称フォトと呼ばれているルーンワードなんですけれども、コー、ベックス、プル、スルという、4つのルーンを、この順番で、はい、4つソケットの開いた、なんだっけかな、フレイルとかに、埋めると、このルーンワードが発動します。全スキル向上プラス3、スキルの、発動速度、まあ、詠唱速度ですね。詠唱速度プラス 40% とか、そういう、盛りだくさんの効果が入ります。で、このルーンワードなんですけれども、別に本体だけが装備できるわけではなくて、このように傭兵もルーンワードで作った武器を装備することができます。それによってオーラを展開して本体を装備し、本体をサポートしたり、することもできるようになっています。 で、あとですね、テレポートなんかも、テレポートなんかも、もう、早いんですよ。これ、ソーサレス以外の、クラスにも、この速さで、テレポートがさせることが可能なので、すべてのクラスでは、できませんけれども、例えば Amazon とかだと、テレポート自体はできても、詠唱速度が遅いとか、そういうのはありますけどね。はい。そのテレポートをさせるための、装備、ルーンワードがエニグマと呼ばれるものになります。はい。今、操作してるのは操作レスですね。はい。はい。こんな感じになります。なので、ルーンワードの、効果ですか。だいぶ違うんですよね。こんなやって、オーラをまとわせることもできたりします。それによって、呪われる呪いの持続時間や、毒に侵されてる時間を減らしたりとか、あるいは、これはあれか、企画で使ったキャラか。じゃあダメだな。はい、こういう無限という、はい、ルーンワードですね。ルーンワードを使うことで、オーラを展開させて敵を弱体化したりとか、そういうこともできたりするので、結構ディアブロ2のルーンワードっていうのは、かなり強力でした。なので、ディアブロ4なんかも最終的にはそれくらいのインパクトが欲しいかなとは思ってるんですけれどもね。まあ、今後に期待といったところでしょうか。まあ、とりあえず今日のところは、ディアブロ4の、憎悪の器ですかね。が、まあ、ある程度情報出てきたということで、まあ、どっかで、ちょっと今日のリキャップですかね。まとめを短く、2時間半あった、内容を短くまとめたいかなというふうには思っています。はい。ということでした。今日の配信、ちょっと長くなってしまったんですけれども、大体以上のところで、ひとまとまりというか、一区切りつけたいと思います。繰り返しになりますけれども、このチャンネル、ハクスラをタイトルについて深々と掘り下げていくチャンネルになります。興味のある方、関心のある方、ぜひともチャンネル登録、高評価等検討していただけると嬉しいです。それでは、今日も、お尋ねいただいて、ありがとうございました。はい。今日の配信はここまでとしたいと思います。皆様、早朝からお疲れ様でした。